Part 16. I love the demon lord, my female disciples are all sick and delicate. Author, Ji Shi Shuebaoeo. Chapter 152. Chapter 151, 151. The audience burst into tears. She taught him great love. As the master and apprentice entered into a subtle look at each other, the screen froze again. Hey, my Yuerong, don't cry. Xiao Qingmei looked at her lover who was lying in her arms, weeping bitterly, and quickly comforted her. Isn't this already a thing of the past? Let's talk about it. As you can see, Musinyan in this memory has come to a dead end. If she can't dissolve the poison and recover her full strength, she and Bai Qingling will be besieged and killed by the demon emperor sooner or later. So, well, if that kind of thing happens next, it's not incomprehensible. What do you think? No, absolutely not. Hua Yuerong straightened up from the master's arms fiercely. Senior brother Qingling is not that kind of person. Regardless of whether his feelings for me in his heart are still the same as when we first met, you must know that the other party has a kindness for him. Master. He is a very principled person, and he will never give up his bottom line easily. She had just finished speaking. A faint female voice came from the side. Master Hua, do you know that for men, the bottom line can be very flexible? Hua Yuerong was slightly taken aback, and looked up. The one who spoke was the one she hated to see, Mrs. Shura Dianren. Mrs. Ren. Don't be too yin and yang when you speak. Hua Yuerong wiped away the tears from her eyes, gritted her teeth and said, do you know senior brother Qingling? Can you understand the bond that has lasted for 100 years between me and him? You should shut up and take care of your husband. Hey, maybe, you really don't understand me. Facing the angry rebuke of this rival in love, Han Jiniang said indifferently, with a calm expression. In her opinion, what she said was really correct. Although she has not merged with that man so far, but he has already tested his powerful demon body. And Hua Yuerong on the opposite side, as Qingmei's first love, just got his first kiss. She, Han Jiniang, has won too much. Han Jiniang. You have humiliated me senior brother Qingling again and again, today. The master of this hall will never end with you. Hua Yuerong's beautiful eyes were filled with anger, and she stood up suddenly, exuding a terrifying evil spirit all over her body. Seeing that the two were about to fight again, Ye Hong Ai on the side hurriedly said, Master Hua, please calm down. In fact, in my opinion, Godfather is a very wise person. Therefore, perhaps as my aunt said, his bottom line is extremely flexible. Crap. Seeing that Ye Hong Ai, who was always helping her for the sake of her senior brother, did not stand by her, Hua Yuerong became even more angry. Does flexible bottom line mean that you can sleep with other girls casually? Yes, Ye Hong Ai blurted out. As soon as the words came out of her mouth, she immediately realized that she had slipped her mouth, so she quickly turned her head aside and said no more. All right, you wrong. Xiao Qingmei cleared her throat and said, arguing is meaningless. Anyway, the memory has already been exposed. Let's continue to read and see what choice Bai Qingling will make at that time. Between you and Mrs. Ren, who is right and who is wrong, isn't it clear at a glance? Hua Yuerong opened her mouth, wanting to say something else. After seeing this master, whom he hadn't seen in 100 years, looking at him expectantly, he could only nod his head and sat down. Forget it, this disciple will follow what master said. Just when several confidant friends of Demon Lord Qingling were arguing. The other side. The entire paradise of paradise, with tens of thousands of guests, is full of joy and anticipation. Those present are all skilled in the double cultivation and harvesting way magician, so they naturally know what Musinyan means by helping her cultivate. That means next. I am afraid that this pair of master and apprentice will completely break through the shackles of secular ethics and have an exciting and taboo contact. Haha, it's really the right time to come to the Demonic Deo conference. As expected of the Acacia sect. There will be a live erotic palace to watch. Hurry up. Mojun quickly agreed to master. Men can't say no. Hurry up. I'm Taoist Jiji. Kungzing, Demon Venerable. One mistake will cause eternal hatred. The memory of the Flame Demon Pagoda before, you have confirmed the name of the great love immortal Venerable. Yeah, even though I really want to watch some dirty stuff. But the other party is a master after all. I object. He is a man with a talent and a woman with a beautiful face, a natural match. Is it your turn to object? Just when the crowd was clamoring and clamoring. The young Mojun in the picture finally made his choice. Master, disciple, maybe you know what's going on in your heart. You want to get rid of the love goo on your body as soon as possible, restore your full strength, and attack the 7 immortal slaughter formation, and lead disciple to escape. But, speaking of this, the pale cheeks of the young man started to blush, and he didn't dare to look directly at the picturesque master in front of him, just like what I said before, I already have a loved one in my heart. The sins are all for her, if the apprentice betrayed her, with other women. Anyway, if that's the case, then, didn't the disciple betray his original self? Isn't everything I did before a joke? After hearing this, Muzinyan's eyes were also red, and she turned her face away slightly. After a long silence, she turned her head again, but there was an extremely forced smile on the corner of her mouth. "Tch, you little brat, what do you know?" Huh. Muzinyan stretched out her finger, and slid it on the bridge of her apprentice's tall nose with a face of reproach. "Stop dreaming. Your master, I am so beautiful, and my cultivation is at the top of the world. I don't know how many strong people are around me." Tianjiao is turning around. "Where is your turn?" "Ah, so that's the case, but I think too much." The young man seemed to be very relieved, pressed his chest, and then smiled and said, "Hey, that's right, master is naturally a flawless and wonderful woman." Muzinyan pouted her lips, as if she didn't quite accept this compliment, and said quietly, "No matter how perfect you are, you still can't compare to Miss Wronger in your heart." This. The boy looked embarrassed and didn't know how to interface. Just as the master and apprentice looked at each other silently, the atmosphere became awkward again. Halfway up the mountain, the demon emperor's sharp and ear-piercing clamor came again, "Muzinlan. Why bother to hold on? You should be clear, even if you don't crash into the formation wall, you will not be alive if you stay in this formation for a long time. It will slowly fade away. You, Muzinlan, are an eternal genius and the leader of the Taoist section. You may be able to stand up for a long time, but what about your immature disciple? I'm afraid that after tonight, he won't even be able to stand up." Ha 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 ha. As soon as this word came out, the young Mojun frowned, and asked, "Master, is what the demon emperor said true?" "Never mind the dwarf." Muzinyan held her apprentice's palm and said word by word, "Listen up, Qingling. Now master is tired of goo poison, his strength is greatly reduced, even." Speaking of this, her cheeks blushed, she lowered her head and said, "I can faintly feel it, as a teacher, and it will explode completely in less than an hour." Hearing this, the young man was shocked, and instinctively took a step back. After pondering for a second, he asked, "Master, what can I, disciple, do for you?" "For you, disciple is omnipotent." Cut. Muzinyan lowered her head and muttered, "It's so nice to say, if you want to, you just did it, didn't you?" She said this in a very faint voice. But he was still heard by the other party. The young man's eyes widened, and a blushing appeared on his pale cheeks again. "So, Master really wants this disciple to do it with you, with you. No, no. I didn't say that. Don't think too much. Musinyan quickly waved her hands, then, covering her hot cheeks with both hands, she gritted her teeth and said, "Hey, listen carefully now. Next, what Master said is related to whether you can get out of here alive." Seeing Master's serious expression, the young man also leaned over and said, "Disciple, listen to Master's teaching." Musinyan said, "As I said before, with my strength, it is impossible to forcibly break through the 7 immortal killing formation before the poison on my body is completely eliminated, but I can't, but she can." Her? Who is she referring to? The young man was slightly startled, and asked. "That fierce old woman you met earlier, Musinlan, who is 10,000 times uglier than me." Musinyan said word by word. Hearing this, the young man's expression became even more shocked, and he asked in a trembling voice, "Could it be that Master wants to wake her up?" After finishing speaking, he thought of something again, and waved his hands in horror. "No. If that's the case. What about you, Master? Wouldn't this disciple never see you again? That woman finally regained control of her body, she will definitely suppress you even more." "You're right. She will." Musinyan smiled wryly, and said, "However, before that, she will first use the fairy method of Piao Miao Yunggong to suppress the poisonous poison, and then tear up the demon emperor who threw himself into the net into pieces, and finally, forcibly tear the scorpion apart immortal Kijuk formation, stepping away. Believe me, this is not difficult for her." "But..." The boy wanted to ask something else. A pair of pure and jade-white crisp hands had already slid onto his cheeks. "Qingling, are you worried that the old woman will harm you?" Musinyan caressed her apprentice's handsome face, her beautiful eyes were full of love and reluctance. "Don't worry, before waking her up, Master will make a request that she cannot refuse. As a teacher, let her escort you to escape the barrier safely, and swear a blood oath that she will not touch you for at least 100 years. As for 100 years later..." Musinyan held up her apprentice's chin, and looked at the latter with a pair of beautiful eyes that looked like stars. "I believe that at that time, Xiao Qingling, who was pregnant with the innate demon seed in our family, had grown into a generation of demon master. It's enough to stand against this old woman, and I don't need a master anymore, right?" Seemingly hearing the meaning of farewell in Master's words, the young man's eyes were red, and he choked up and said, "No. No matter how strong Qingling becomes after 100 years, he still needs your care and teaching, Master." Seemingly hearing the meaning of farewell in Master's words, the young man's eyes were red, and he choked up and said, "No. No matter how strong Qingling becomes after 100 years, he still needs your care and teaching, Master." "Ha ha 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 ha, so cute." As expected of the apprentice, Musinyan, fell in love with at first sight. With tears in her eyes, Musinyan tugged at her disciple's handsome face, looked at her for a long while, and suddenly said softly, "Disciple, stop talking, let Master take a good look at you." After she finished speaking, the smile on the corner of her mouth gradually froze. There was a sadness on his face that he had never seen before. "You know what, apprentice? In the past, when Musinlan went through a catastrophe, she lost her mind. As a teacher, she had many chances to regain her body, but she gave up in the end. Because I don't want to see the ugliness in this world, I would rather stay in the realm of the soul forever. But after meeting you, my idea of being a teacher has changed. There may be nothing good in this world, but with you here, this month's master-student friendship may be just a glimpse in your long life in the future. But for Master, it will never be forgotten until the heavenly Dao collapses. The only regret is that Master can only accompany you here. At the end of the day, Master just wants you to remember one thing. You, Bai Qingling, are not some natural devil, let alone a child that no one loves. At least the master respects me. I love you unconditionally. She stared at the boy affectionately, her voice became softer and softer. In the end, with the floating of the spirit body, I couldn't hear it at all. Master! Master, don't go. Tuer! Tuer would rather die with you than watch you leave me. As the master in his arms closed his eyes, his soft body completely leaned on his shoulders. The boy stood on the top of the mountain, looking up to the sky and howling. At this moment, it was as if the heaven and the earth were mourning together, the night wind was shrill, and the stars and the moon were dim. Demon Lord Qingling, after experiencing a short period of warmth, once again embarked on a lonely and cold path of cultivation. Master, this disciple will never forget you. 100 years. 1,000 years. 10,000 years. Bai Qingling will always remember. I have a master who loves me, Muzinyan. Besides, teacher likes you too. Looking at the master who fell into a deep sleep, the boy finally released the secret emotions hidden in his heart. For the first time in his life, he took the initiative and boldly put his face on master's beautiful face. It seems to be feeling the body temperature and smell of her past. Until now, I finally know what kind of face I should face you. Yes, junior sister Ronger is my true love. But master respects you and me, and it's the same. True great love is not just for one person. He muttered to himself, but a smile of enlightenment appeared on the young man's tear-filled handsome face. You brat! Let go of this seed. Are you courting death? At this moment, an extremely cold female voice came. The young man was startled, looked at the blushing Master Shizun, who was dressed in black and turned into white, and said in a trembling voice, Mu Muxinlan. The screen freezes again. Off the field. In the Palace of Paradise, there was a weeping voice. Up brother, and so on. She really made me cry to death. Master Xinyan is simply the most perfect master in the world. It's a pity. She didn't hear the demon lord's confession until the end. Mo Jun, you don't understand love. It's useless to give you a chance. I'm so angry. Fellow deists, stop crying. Isn't the point of Muzinlan's resurrection at the end? That's right. After Muzinlan wakes up, she will definitely kill Mo Jun. Hey, they are obviously twin sisters, one is a perfect goddess, and the other is an old witch. Stop talking nonsense. If she really kills Mo Jun, where is the godfather of Kang Ming today? Looking forward to the next plot. Now. On the VIP seats in the hall on the first floor. Xiao Qingmei, who was originally harmed by comforting her disciple Yuerong, could no longer restrain her emotions at this moment, and cried out loud. In the end, the master and apprentice cried together. We master, look, Ronger believed him, right? He didn't break through his bottom line until the end. Hua Yuerong choked up and said, but Ronger didn't feel too happy. I even thought that if senior brother Qingling treated his master better, I wouldn't be jealous. It's just because she is so kind. Ah. Yeah. Xiao Qingmei forcibly swallowed her tears back, and murmured, I have been fighting with Muzinlan for so many years, this is the first time I know that she has a sister who is so daring to love and hate, but I don't know Muzinlan Yan's soul, where is it now? Han Jiniang on the side kept wiping away her tears and murmured, bad man, it turns out that your theory of great love is all learned from your master, but it is really great love. You the guy is pure shameless. Hey, even though I know this, I still miss you so much. While muttering, she turned her head and looked in the direction of the door, but she still didn't see the figure she was thinking about. Just when she was wondering, there was a soft touch in her arms. It was my niece, Hong Yi, who rushed over with tears all over her face, "Auntie! Hongyi misses Godfather so much. I miss him so much. Great love. Whoa." At the same time, the highest level of the Sixyangji Palace. Inside the hidden sword room, Bai Feng looked at Mu Xinlan, who had red eyes beside him. The invincible Mu Shengren will cry too. Devil, you don't have to speak out to provoke me. Mu Xinlan closed her beautiful eyes and tried her best to calm down. My tears are not for you, but for the wishful thinking of that stupid woman. I feel distressed and worthless. The devil seed is the devil seed. No matter how beautiful the human skin is, it is heinous, ruthless, and how can it be influenced? Mu Xinlan shook her head with contempt. Then, she still couldn't help asking, "Bai Qingling, my sister treats you like this, why on earth did you betray her?" Before answering you, why don't the deity ask you a question? Let's exchange it, how about? Bai Feng looked at each other coldly. You. Mu Xinlan was slightly taken aback, then snorted coldly and said, "Say what you want, I don't bother with you." Mu Xinlan, I am serious. Ignoring the other party's indifference at all, Bai Feng took the initiative to sit closer, and threw out the questions that had been in Bai Qingling's mind for many years. That night, before my master decided to wake you up, he told me that she would ask you a question that cannot the rejected deal, let me go after you wake up. In fact, that time, you did not kill me, but saved me. So, you really want to know, what is the content of that so-called transaction? Right. Mu Xinlan sneered. Yes, Bai Feng nodded. For a ruthless white-eyed wolf like you, is this matter worth thinking about for so long? Mu Xinlan narrowed her eyes and asked. It's worth it, Bai Feng said patiently, can you tell me? Mu Xinlan pondered for a second, looking at the magic sword floating on the dome. Her eyes became a little sentimental. My sister told me that if I can save you, she will surrender to me and willingly stay in the dark place for the rest of her life. Soul realm, completely hand over your physical body to me. After hearing this, Demon Lord Qingling was struck by lightning, and the tiger's body shook violently. In an instant, on that indifferent and cold pale handsome face, a drop of crystal clear material actually slipped down. He didn't notice the change in the expression of the old enemy beside him. Mu Xinlan closed her eyes and said, Boy, now, it's your turn to tell me. Why did you betray us in the first place? There is no need for the deity to speak in person. Bai Feng shook his head, pointed to the magic sword floating on the dome. Look, it will tell the world. As for you, Mu Xinlan, I can only tell you one thing. Get the tissues ready. Mu Xinlan. I love the Demon Lord, my female disciples are all sick and delicate. Author, Zhi Shi Shui Bao Ao. Chapter 153. Memory Screen. The young Mojun looked at the woman who looked exactly like his master in astonishment. I didn't expect that woman to accept you as a disciple. I, Mu Xinlan, have been jealous of evil all my life. I took it as my duty to help the righteous people in the world. I have defeated countless great demons. I never thought that my own sister would accept you, an innate demon, as a disciple. It's ironic. The young man said coldly, Mu Xinlan, you keep saying that you are right and evil, and you have been obsessed with it all your life. Have you ever lived for yourself for a moment? After hearing this, Mu Xinlan's expression froze. She opened her mouth to refute something, but she was speechless. The young man continued to scold me coldly. Also, Mu Xinlan, my teacher respects her for accepting me as an apprentice. It has nothing to do with being right or wrong with me. She is such a sincere and beautiful person, you don't deserve to slander her. Humph, what a sharp-tongued little devil. Find a fight. Mu Xinlan was furious, and raised her palm to slap the boy. Call. The terrifying palm wind brushed over the young man's cheeks, blowing his bun away. However, the boy remained motionless with a calm expression on his face. Muzinlin, what are you hesitating about? The young man stared coldly at the Taoist Suan, who suddenly stopped. Aren't you going to kill me? You kid. Are you really not afraid of death at all? Muzinlin frowned slightly. Time sharing. The young man said, the first time I met you, I took away your magic sword, and you came to chase and kill me. At that time, I was naturally unwilling to kill you, so I found a gap and planted the chaotic soul goo on you, so that my master has an opportunity to regain his body, but now I am willing to die. Willing to die. A hint of surprise flashed across Muzinlin's cold and ruthless samsara eyes. How do you say that? The young man shook his head, his gaze became a little dim. I am very clear that Master has imprisoned his soul and awakened you this time, which also means that it is almost impossible for her to come to this world again. As the disciple she protects at all costs with my life, I choose to go with her. You. Hearing this, Muzinlin trembled slightly as if her soul had been touched by something. After a long silence, she murmured, I never thought you, an innate demon, would have feelings. Muzinlin, it's you who has no feelings, not me and Master. The young man glanced at the other party coldly, and then lifted off the black sky demon robe, revealing his strong and vigorous upper body. Do it, Muzinlin, it's useless to talk more. I will not kill you for the time being. Muzinlin bit her lip, and turned her head to the side. I promised that woman, within 100 years from this moment, I will not touch you, so. What you have to do now, kid, is to live a good life, and then, no matter what the cost, you will become stronger. After 100 years, you will grow up to be the king of one side, and then you will have a life and death battle with me. If this is the case, it will not be considered as letting you down, Master. Do you know? Master, she is real. The young man's eyes turned red again, he gritted his teeth, and clenched the magic sword in his hand. Forget it. Even a cruel woman like you keeps her promise so well. I must not let down my master. Muzinlin. Today, you promised me 100 years, and I, Bai Qingling. I promise you a vigorous life and death battle. 100 years later, in the Fenmo Valley on the border of the Eastern Land, the entanglements between you and me will be resolved in one battle. The young man swears by the sky and the earth, his tone is as firm as iron. The Taoist Suanv on the side listened quietly, with a half-smile on the corner of her mouth. He is a bloody young man. Maybe I can try to understand why that stupid woman loves you so much. Forget it. Since I was entrusted by others, this seat will not only take you out intact, but also teach you some formation techniques. The way of formation. Bai Qingling was slightly taken aback, and said with a vigilant expression, Your Excellency, you might as well make your words clearer. Yes, these things, that woman can't teach you. Mentioning this matter, she seemed to be quite happy in her heart, and the corner of Muzinlin's mouth curled up in an imperceptible arc. Maybe you don't know, kid. This seat is not only 10,000 years old, but also the strongest Daoist cultivator in Middle-earth. The strongest array mage. The misty cloud palace still cultivates the way of formation. The young man was dubious. Certainly. Muzinlin said, otherwise, why do you think that woman would bet everything to wake me up, and begged me to break through the 7 immortal killing formation and take you out? When she said this, that beautiful and cold melon-seeded face was full of arrogance, and arrogance that looked down upon the world. That is the self-confidence of the number one person in the righteous way, the most powerful goddess in the world. However, when she looked at the boy again, but he didn't see the slightest admiration and awe on his face. On the contrary, there was a bit of disgust and contempt. Auntie. The young man said coldly, how strong you are has nothing to do with me. I don't bother to learn what you have. 100 years later, I will definitely defeat you with the Azura sword method taught by my Lord Master. Tisk tisk, It's true that newborn calves are not afraid of tigers, even your master, I'm afraid they wouldn't dare to be so confident. After Muzinlin finished speaking coldly, she suddenly thought of something again, and her tone suddenly became heavier. Also, there is one thing, I have tolerated you for a long time. My seat is thousands of years older than you. It is more than enough for you to call me ancestor. Even according to your master-student relationship with Muzinyan, you should still call me uncle. Not some kind of aunt. Okay, auntie is wrong, Senior Mu. The young man said flatly, this senior is already my Bai Qingling, and I have the greatest respect for you. Humph, up to you. Muzinlin finished speaking coldly, then reached out her hand and grabbed the blue magic sword on the young man's waist. This sword. What do you want to do? The boy took a step back warily. Don't worry, this sword originally belonged to that woman. She is your master, and she is willing to entrust this sword to you, which has nothing to do with me. This seat is just curious. As she spoke, her delicately curved red lips gradually outlined a curve. This magic sword has only been worn on your body for more than a month, and the sword charm it emits at this moment has completely become the magic charm of your body shape. Is this the bewitching power of the innate formless demon? It's more terrifying than I imagined. Wrong. The young man said coldly, it's great love. It was the great love taught to me by Master, which influenced it, so that it was willing to be infected with the breath of my new master. After finishing speaking, he saw the blank expression on the other side's face, and said sarcastically, it's no wonder why a person like you can understand what is called great love. Big love. What a weird, absurd, and uninhibited statement. Muzinlin snorted, then ignored the young man, came to the edge of the cliff, released her spiritual consciousness, and frowned after some probing. The dwarf demon emperor and the elite of his demon palace are still at the foot of the mountain. I'm afraid that if he doesn't see our bodies this time, he won't let it go. And, oh no, senior, then according to your opinion, how should we break the situation next? The young man walked up and said solemnly, or, what can I do for you, just tell me. The young man walked up and said solemnly, or, what can I do for you, just tell me. I, Bai Qingling, do not receive favors for nothing. Even if I die this time, I have no complaints, and it happens to be worthy of my master's cultivation. Boy, what you said sounds good. Muzinlin glanced sideways at the young man, however, with your current ability, you can't help me at all. Let's take me back to the cave first and then talk about it. Dongfu. The boy was slightly taken aback. That's right, it's the cave where you and that woman lived. Before she woke me up, she told me everything, including. Speaking of this, the pure Taoist Suanv, with slightly red cheeks, bowed her head and said, it's about the dwarf's poison in her body. Ah, but Master said. The young man seemed to be very resistant, and he gritted his teeth and said, with your Misty Cloud Palace's secret immortal skills, the supreme pure heart art is enough to refine the goo poison in the body, so the most important thing is to get rid of the goo poison now and break through the formation as soon as possible, is not it? That woman is right. My Taishanking Xi and Ju is enough to dispel goo poison below rank 6, but the process is not as simple as you said. Muzinlin frowned and said, at least 1 day, at most 3 days. And during this period, I must find a cave with abundant spiritual energy to cultivate quietly. The so-called sharpening the knife is not the same as chopping firewood. The demon emperor just wants to wait for me to be poisoned, and dare not come up to fight me head-on, but why are you so anxious? But the poison in your body is the poison of love, so the demon emperor is not afraid. The young man suddenly thought of something, his cheeks turned red, he hesitated to speak. Humph, I know what your kid is thinking. Muzinlin also looked embarrassed, lowered her head, and tried not to meet the boy's eyes. That woman still has some bottom line, She didn't cough and cough with her apprentice in order to forcibly detoxify. Approve of her. Your Excellency is so yin and yang, you insult my master. The young Mojun suddenly said angrily, she is much more noble than you hypocritical Taoist saint. How could she violate her bottom line? She better be. Mu Zinlin sneered noncommittally, and then, as if unwilling to linger on this issue, said firmly. Bai Qingling. This seat will ask you one last time. Do you want to fulfill your master's final entrustment and walk out of Danghun Mountain alive? It's your master's intention to let me go to the cave to recuperate. Do you understand? Hear the other parties roar. The young man was silent for a long time, before finally nodding his head. Forget it, I'll take you there. Next, the memory picture changes rapidly. Everyone outside the court didn't even have time to whisper. The hero and heroine of this memory are already in the cave on the mountainside. Tisk tisk, is this where you and that woman have lived for the past month? Mu Zinlin looked around at the warm and cozy furnishings in the cave. This mountain cave is actually decorated like a cozy little home. You two, master and apprentice, have some style. Don't care about seniors. The young man said with a look of disgust, I have already brought you here as promised, and I hope that senior will refine the goo poison as soon as possible, so as not to damage any place here. Boy, tell me the truth, why are you so reluctant to bring me here? Mu Zinlin narrowed her eyes and said. Because this is a place that only belongs to me and master. The young man said coldly, let's not talk about seniors, even the 9 heavens immortals will not be able to enter. Bringing you here this time is just following the wishes of the master. Listen to your kid's tone, you can't be serious. Mu Zinlin suddenly looked him up and down suspiciously. What? The boy was taken aback. No, nothing. Mu Zinlin quickly cleared her throat, and said seriously, time is running out, please take me to the inner stone room quickly. The woman Mu Zinyan said that in the stone room, she has set up a large formation for gathering spirits. Also, speaking of this, she walked over, raised her head slightly, and looked at the young man who had grown into a majestic man. Bai Qingling, you are not young anymore, in fact, there are many other scenery in this world besides your master, and good-looking woman, since this seed has given you 100 years, you should enjoy yourself in time, experience the world of mortals, and even find a Taoist couple and have a few children. Come to this world for a while, don't you? It's none of your business. The boy's eyes became more and more disgusted. What do you want to say? This seed wants to say. Mu Zinlin pursed her lips, her momentum was a bit weaker. Your master, my sister, Mu Zinyan, she may never come back, so try to put her down. What? The young man was startled at first, and then said emotionally, Mu Zinlin, didn't you say before that master is staying in his own spirit world? How could disappear forever? Yes. Mu Zinlin said, my sisters are born together as one body, this physical body can only be controlled by one person at a time, so we are often in battle, and the one who is at a disadvantage can only stay in the realm of spirit and soul, waiting for the next counter-attack opportunity. Fortunately, over the years, my sister agrees 3 points with my demo-slaying ambition and looks on the sidelines 7 points, so that even if she succeeds occasionally and regains the body, it will not hinder my plan. The world will never imagine that the Taoist Suan who launched the second demon-slaying crusade is fundamentally different from the first one. No wonder I often hear from Dongtu's demon cultivators that the Holy Maiden Mu in the second demon-slaying crusade was even more vicious than the first one, directly killing the 3 suzerains of the 8 major demon sections. The boy thought thoughtfully, did my master play the second battle? Yes. Mu Zinlin smiled bitterly and said, actually, I also know that my sister doesn't hate the way of magic, and she's not even interested in anything in this world. I'm smarter. Yes, with master's mind, this small world is not in her eyes at all. The young man took advantage of the situation and said, "It's not like some people who claim to be the incarnation of the law of heaven and justice, who use their own thoughts to arbitrarily judge right and wrong, and wage tragic wars again and again at the expense of their lives. You boy, you don't have to be weird." Muse Inland said calmly, "I have never expected that everyone in the world will understand my ambitions, even your master can't understand that level, let alone you, a little devil." The young man snorted coldly, non-committal. "Let's get back to the point." Muse Inland said word by word, "You just said something wrong just now." "Which sentence?" "Your master did not care about anything before, but now, in this world, there is someone she cares about." Saying that, Muse Inland stared at the boy with a pair of samsara pupils. "Yes, it's you. In order for you to survive, she completely surrendered to me, and gave up the right to control this body, and exiled her soul to the realm of death." Hearing this, the boy's eyes widened with shock. It stood still like a sculpture for a long, long time. Crystal tears kept pouring out from his stern eyes. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I love the Demon Lord, my female disciples are all sick and delicate. Author, Ji Shi Shui Bao Ao. Chapter 154. Chapter 153, Fallen, Muse Inland Seeking Great Love, Part 2. No. I don't want Master to sacrifice for me. I want her back. I, Bai Qingling, am willing to die in exchange for her return to the world. The young man knelt on his knees, choking with sobs and howling in grief. Well, it seems that there is indeed a relationship between you master and apprentice. Muse Inland said with emotion, this also shows that the innate formless demon in your body has not completely corrupted your mind. Senior. But the young man didn't care much, and rushed over, I, Bai Qingling, have already been damned. Please, let my master come back. I'm willing to do anything you ask me to do. I didn't express it clearly enough just now. Muse Inland frowned slightly, and said resolutely, she, Muse Inyan, disappeared forever. From then on, the Taoist Suanv has only one name, Muse Inland. She had just finished speaking. The young man rushed out of the cave with his eyes bloodshot. What are you going to do? Muse Inland pondered for a second, but with a flash of her figure, she blocked the opponent's way. The only master in the world who was kind to me is gone, and my life is meaningless. Pointless. Muse Inland raised her eyebrows. Isn't there a childhood sweetheart in this world that you will never forget? You don't want that girl to spend her whole life waiting for an ending that will never come, do you? Do you know what happened to my junior sister? The boy's expression trembled. Before your master revived me, I talked with her for a long time. You must know that time does not pass in the realm of the soul. After saying this, Muse Inland also looked a little sad. The two stood opposite each other, after a long silence. Muse Inland looked melancholy, and murmured as if talking to herself, if I were you, I would use this 100 years to become stronger at all costs, and then go to the realm of the underworld to go back to that woman who is willing to give everything for you, and treat her well for the rest of your life. Hearing this, as if his soul had been impacted, the young man's body shook suddenly, and the expression on his face gradually changed from despair to enthusiasm full of hope. Qingling, thank you uncle for your guidance. Master, you are really, much better than I imagined. Suddenly, the young man threw away all his preconceived ideas, and bowed down in front of his future enemy, Suanv. What did you call me? As if the clouds were leaving and the snow was falling, Muse Inland's indifferent icy face suddenly showed an imperceptible throbbing. After a while, she calmed down and asked again, you call me so kindly now, do you know that after 100 years, no matter what, I will kill you? So what's the matter? The young man said, you are the master's younger sister, until the moment you and I meet in battle, Qingling should call you uncle. Without the guidance of my uncle, Qingling would have almost killed herself in disappointment, and she has let down the painstaking efforts of her master and her old man. That's right. Master once said that we, master and apprentice, can last a long, long time. I must never give up. Now the question is. The young man had the courage to get close to this beautiful uncle whose facial features were very similar to his master's, and ask softly, how do I get to the realm of death in the underworld? This. Muse Inlan was slightly taken aback, and then snorted coldly, cut, just because you still want to break into the world of hell? That place is adjacent to the Hongmeng Broken Realm deep in the 100,000 mountains in southern Xinjiang. The barrier is powerful. For thousands of years, among the two ways of righteousness and evil, there is no one who has the ability to become a respected ancestor, and can't even get close. How do you enter? Hearing this, the young man was ecstatic. Uncle Shi's words mean that as long as you are strong enough, you still have a chance to enter the world of death, doesn't it? Yes, but... Seemingly regretting telling the other party this, Muse Inlan bit her lip, wanting to say something else. But was interrupted by an indifferent yet domineering voice. It doesn't matter, I just become a respected person. Muse Inlan. The picture was once again fixed on the shocking and speechless beauty of the Taoist Xuanv. At this moment, in the Palace of Paradise, everyone who saw the scene could no longer remain calm. I just want to become a respected person? As expected of the great love immortal venerable. These words are domineering. Forskramen. Whoa, am I the only one crying? For my master, Mo Jun, he really made me cry to death. Speaking of which, Master Xinyan is not for Mo Jun? This wave of truth is really a bond of hearts, and we are going in both directions. The purest and truest love in the world is nothing better than this. This is definitely for me. Heaven can't stop it. I really want to see the end soon. Is that Master Xinyan still in Muse Inlan's body? Can they meet again? Hey, there is a high probability that there will be a knife in the ending. The demon venerable later fulfilled the 100-year agreement and fought bloody battles with Muse Inlan in the Soul Sealing Valley, which means that Master Xinyan is no longer here. When everyone was in mourning. In the VIP hall on the first floor, the beauties who were absent from the Demon King were already crying. Senior brother Qingling is really kind. That master, she is also very good. Hua Yuerong rubbed her red and teary eyes, and couldn't help but sigh with emotion. Yuerong, you really don't mind the intimacy between Muse Inyan and your senior brother? Xiao Qingmei asked her lover tentatively. How can disciples mind? Hua Yuerong said, Master Xinyan has a great love for senior brother Qingling, which is passionate and polite, and the love of the elders who is tolerant and generous. Even Rong'er herself sighs. Ah, I see. Xiao Qingmei felt inexplicable joy in her heart, and asked again, from what you said, as long as your future husband, senior brother Qingling, has the care and love of elders, is it acceptable to be intimate? Ah. Hua Yuerong was stunned for a moment, not knowing how to answer master. What's the matter, good apprentice? Why don't you answer? Xiao Qingmei asked. No, Yuerong just thinks that master's question is a bit weird, and she doesn't know how to answer it. Hua Yuerong shook her head. Han Jiniang on the side observed the words and expressions, and she saw it in her eyes, but she muttered in a low voice. No way, no way, looking at the expression of Empress Yin, that bad man wouldn't even be able to kill her, a 6,000-year-old senior. By Qingling. I've confirmed my concubine status. You are the only one. When the words came to her lips, she was a little speechless. After all, at this moment, watching that man go through so many life and death, she really wanted to hug him and give him some tender comfort that other women could not give. The fourth floor of Sixyangji Palace. The two beautiful girls in the Yuluo hall who guarded the door of the sword room according to the master's order also saw, their eyes flushed. Whoa! Sister Feng. Master, he is so pitiful. I just escaped from the devil's lair of the Shiji sect, and finally met a master who loves him, but in the blink of an eye, I am facing life and death again. Xing'er. Xing'er really wants to hug him now? I can't wait any longer. While talking, Sen Xing'er desperately slammed on the door of the sword room. But she was hugged tightly by the elder sister beside her. Xing'er. Be good, calm down. Why doesn't senior sister feel sorry for master? Not to mention. Feng Lixu hugged her junior sister tightly, her face blushing with embarrassment. Besides, the two of us are master's disciples, what belongs to him is his. Ah, senior sister will also be master's star slave in the future. Sen Xing'er's eyes widened and she asked with a complicated expression. Star slave? What is that? Feng Lixu frowned slightly, and then said directly, in short, the relationship between the two of us and master is closer than that of your senior sister Lingyan, so naturally we have to be more considerate of master. He told us to stay outside obediently, of course he has deep meaning. As master's girls, we just do what we do. Do you understand? Speaking of this, she looked at the frozen memory picture on the sky again, and her tone became dignified. Actually, until now, senior sister still has a feeling. The memory exposure this time is the same as the last time at the Flame Demon Tower. There is a high probability that it is the meaning of the master himself. Ah! Sen Xing'er looked surprised. How can senior sister be so sure? Think about it, these two memory exposures can be said to have completely shown the world the most loving side of master, especially the little things between him and master, which are enviable and praised. At least as his disciple, I'm very happy to see this, because it shows that all our doubts about master before were all foolish assumptions. It also includes when he was on the second floor of the Four-Elephant Pole Palace. He poured great love into us. That was also his helpless move to take out the internal organs. The master himself is a noble person who is extremely indifferent to the lust of men and women. He is definitely not a person who is impatient. This can be seen from the fact that he has not crossed the line with his master. At the end, the great witch of Yuluo Temple, who has always been reserved, showed a knowing smile on her face. Junior sister, do you think what senior sister said is right? Ah! Sen Xing'er was slightly taken aback, her cat-like eyes turned around in a grunt. Ah, yes, yes, yes. Master is definitely a person who is indifferent to the lust of men and women. Because the master only likes to use Xing'er's body. Because the master only likes to use Xing'er's body. Of course, she said the second sentence in her heart. Wow! Sister, look. This little princess of Dachu has passed out. At this time, she noticed that Lin Xianxian, who was beside her, had fallen to the ground at some point, with her legs spread apart, and her posture looked a little weird. My God, what kind of freak is this girl? Feng Lixu took a closer look, and told her junior sister, Xing'er, change the magic sticker for her. Just as the audience outside the venue was discussing heatedly. Above the sky, the memory screen scrolled again. Inside the stone chamber deep in the cave. The master of the memories, the youthful Mo Junqingling, was looking at the opposite woman with a reserved face. This is it. Not bad. My sister is really good at enjoying it. Although this place is small, the concentration of aura is the most comfortable on the whole mountain. Mu Xinlan looked around, then patted the hard stone bed in front of her. Does your master usually sleep on this? Yes. The teenager nodded. What about you? Where do you sleep when you are not practicing? Mu Xinlan asked casually. I sleep on it too. The young man said calmly. Master said, this stone bed is extraordinary, and many ancient and powerful energy runes are engraved on it. which is of great benefit to the physical body in high-intensity cultivation. What? Muse Inland stared wide-eyed, folded her arms instinctively, and said blushingly, "She sleeps with you at night. What's all the fuss about? This stone bed is so spacious that master and I sleep on each side and have no contact with each other." Speaking of this, the young Mojan rolled his eyes in disdain. "If your heart is dirty, whatever you think about is naturally filthy. You little devil, don't show your tongue to this deity." Muse Inland gritted her teeth and said, "A serious master and apprentice, how could they sleep on the same bed? Can this seat not think too much? You can do whatever you want, uncle." The young man said coldly, "I only hope that my uncle can refine the goo poison as soon as possible, and break through the 7 immortal killing formation outside, so I won't bother you, Junior." Muse Inland pondered for a while, but still called out to the other party, "You, don't leave tonight." "Why?" The young man was puzzled. "If you leave my side, then the dwarf demon emperor and his Hehuan sect male concubine come to make trouble. What should we do?" Muse Inland pointed to the stone bed beside her. "Hey, after a day of tossing around, you should also rest. Tonight, you can sleep here. How about you?" The boy couldn't help asking. "This seat? Well, I'm a bit picky, so I'm naturally prepared." While Muse Inland was talking, a burst of brilliance radiated from the palm of her hand, and then, from the space of the zifu, she dragged out a crystal-clear ice fairy bed that looked like it was made of spiritual jade. "That's it, you go to sleep. This seed will also start to exercise and cure poison." After all, she didn't even look at the boy. She took off her shoes and socks in a blink of an eye, and sat cross-legged on the cold jade bed with her beautiful legs. Immediately, the 5 hearts turned upwards, and the divine light and Deo rhyme behind him complemented each other, as if entering some kind of mysterious meditation. The young man was slightly taken aback, thought for a while, and then climbed onto the stone bed. But he didn't fall asleep right away. Instead, he hugged the magic sword tightly, muttering something with a sad face. Then the speed of the memory picture changes accelerated. It was different from Muse Inland, who remained motionless on the cold jade bed. That night, the young man was restless. After a while, he caressed the magic sword and called his master. After a while, he took out a crystal-clear merman bead from his bosom, and called her by the name Wrong-er. With the passage of time, this memory picture finally has a new explosive point. The Taoist Suan's breathing gradually became tighter, and her plump breasts continued to rise and fall. At the same time, bursts of flushes appeared on that flawless white face. "Ah!" With an uncontrollable moan from her mouth, she suddenly opened her eyes. Just this moment. Her ancient well-smoothed, samsara fairy pupils with insight into the world are filled with some kind of fiery emotion. So hot. Damn it, this goo poison is slightly stronger than I imagined. No. No. With the power of my Tai's Hanking's Inju, I could have completely suppressed it. If this happens, it is only possible. When my sister was poisoned by the poison, she fell in love with a certain man. So much so that the poison instantly spread to the perineum acupuncture points. The worst thing is, that man is none other than. At this moment, facing the young man who was looking at her, Muse Inland's face flushed even more. She covered her lower abdomen with one hand, and forced herself up with the other. With a pair of beautiful naked legs, she staggered towards the door. "No, I can't take another look at this kid. One more look and I might be on the spot. I can't help it, thanks to that old woman, the target of my insane poisoning is completely him. Want to stay away from this person." Muttering as if no one was there, Muse Inland rolled her eyes up, her emotions seemed to be on the verge of collapse. Suddenly, she rushed to the door like crazy. However, the next moment. Boom! Because the impact of the goo poison was too intense, her body softened and she fell directly to the ground. You. After hesitating for a moment, the stunned young Mojun rushed over and helped the nominal uncle up. Just then, a pair of plump and seductive red lips came towards him. It is Master Xinyan's lips. 2. My old enemy Suanv, Mu Xinlan's first kiss. Boom. The teenager was caught off guard. Already the nephrite jade warm and fragrant collided together. You can't do this. Calm down. You are Mu Xinlan. You are a Taoist Suanv who regards demons as enemies, is aloof and omnipotent. You will definitely be able to defeat Gu Poison. Seemingly realizing something, the boy yelled loudly, trying to wake him up. However, the strange thing is that although his tone was full of righteousness, he did not push away the stunning ancestor saint in front of him. Even to the end. He closed his eyes, and slightly responded to the other party's kiss. Big love. Bai Qingling, come. Show your uncle what your so-called great love is. Don't look. Don't look. Just do it. Hurry up. If you still want to live. My body is about to be burned. Sister can do it too. Following the holy and flawless Taoist Suanv, her beautiful eyes turned upwards, and she forcibly embraced the young demon venerable in her arms in a frenzied and confused mood, and said words against the sky. The audience was shocked. There was no sound. Xiangpole Palace. Inside the hidden sword room. Bai Feng looked at Mu Zhenv, whose cheeks were flushed, and said with emotion, if this memory hadn't reappeared, it would be really hard for me to imagine that you have such a charming side. My seed. 100 years later, the already colder, more indifferent, powerful, and invincible Taoist Suanv, at this moment, is like a shy 16-year-old girl, covering her cheeks with her hands, unable to utter a word. I thought about it for a long time today. I originally planned to completely delete the emotional line with Mu Xinlan. It ended in a big chapter, but I was not reconciled. After all, I was a set sister before. Therefore, I completely gave up the treatment and updated it on time every day. Everyone should scold me if they want. I love the Demon Lord, my female disciples are all sick and delicate. Author, Zhi Shi Shui Bao. Chapter 155. Chapter 154. 154 Join Great Love. Mu Xinlan, is this what you want? Bai Feng glanced angrily at the Taoist Suanv who covered her face and lowered her head, feeling ashamed. Let everyone in the world see that you, the righteous leader, violated an ignorant young man. Bah! You little devil, you have the nerve to call yourself an ignorant boy. Mu Xinlan blushed, gritted her teeth and said, at that time, although you were only 17 or 18 years old, the city was actually deeper than anyone else. From the moment you and I were trapped in Danghun Mountain, you have already thought about how to sell our sisters in exchange for your own life, haven't you? Look at you, you're in a hurry. Bai Feng closed his eyes and meditated. The deity said, there are many things that you don't know. When the truth is revealed, this deity only hopes that you can live up to it and don't waver. Humph, when things come to an end, you still want to defend yourself. Mu Xinlan sneered and said, you are a devil who has been able to seduce people's hearts since you were a child, and that stupid woman was deceived by you and reduced to the current situation. It's ridiculous. Bai Feng looked at the frozen picture of the two people kissing on the sky, and murmured, shouldn't you be the one who is playing tricks and bewitching people's hearts? You must know that this deity was only 17 years old at that time, and you just took it away like this, my ahem. He was going to blurt out the word first kiss. Suddenly remembered that Master Xinyan had already kissed himself before. Anyway, Mu Xinlan, since the next memory picture is too private, I can give you a chance now. Bai Feng looked directly at the other party, and said word by word, just like the deity, you are also the master recognized by the magic sword. Therefore, you can take off the magic sword now and stop the exposure of this memory. It's not necessary. The Taoist Suan raised her flawless and proud cheeks. You, Bai Qingling, are not afraid to face those memories of the past. I, Mu Zinlin, can act upright and sit upright. What am I afraid of? As for the private pictures you mentioned. Speaking of this, her cheeks were slightly red, and after a moment of silence, she said loudly, then let them be shown to the world. Together with your ugly face of ungratefulness, hypocrisy, and heartlessness. I really don't cry without seeing the coffin. Yes, it is indeed the deity who knows you. Bai Feng said coldly, forget it, let's wait and see. At the same time, the pot was completely blown up on the spot. Damn it, why isn't the screen still moving? Hurry up. I just want to know whether these two people are close or not. A demon venerable of the Eastern Earth and a Suan of the righteous way, it's so exciting that sparks are ignited. Kissed but not kissed. Like this kind of situation, we generally call it. Stop talking nonsense. The memory screen has moved. Someone shouted loudly. Everyone looked up. The picture on the sky finally changed. Following the handsome pale, childish little face of the young demon venerable, a blush appeared. Next moment, he actually closed his eyes, and kissed Mu Zinlin's plump and alluring red lips on his own initiative. At the same moment, the two seemed to have a tacit understanding. Hug each other. Kiss to the end. That cold and noble Taoist Suan started to walk restlessly on the boy's chest with her white hands, completely opening his skirt. At this moment, Mu Zinlin's beautiful eyes were blurred, her face was flushed, and she seemed to have completely fallen into some kind of selfless madness. Big love. Is this the great love you keep saying? Has that woman ever done this to you? Between the thick and wet kisses, Mu Zinlin gently caressed the boy's face with one hand, while the other hand extended down along the boy's firm chest. Seeing this glamorous scene, the audience was completely ebullient. Oh my god. This plot is too exciting. I watch live erotic palaces in the Acacia sect, and I focus on an occasion. Hey, it's a pity that we are from the perspective of the magic sword next to us. The details of the kiss between the two are completely invisible. It's okay, just do it. Mo Jun, come on. It's only the last step. Let's stir up Mu Zinlin. My brother and I support you. Tisk tisk, I didn't expect the high-ranking Taoist Suan to be surrendered under the crotch of our Dongtu demon venerable as early as 100 years ago. Don't say much, just one word, win. Just when everyone was blushing and looking forward to the next plot. In the picture, the figures of the two intertwined together gradually froze. Uncle, are you feeling better now? The young man asked in a low voice. Seeming to have regained consciousness a lot, Mu Zinlin let go of her arms around the young man's waist abruptly, blushing and said, just now the poisonous goo poisoned me, and my mind is muddled, this is it. Anyway. You forget everything. Do you know? Well, the junior knows. The young demon venerable said gently, that's why I asked Master Uncle, are you feeling better? He said in a serious manner, while taking out the secrets of the Guzun, according to the ancient book in my hand, the love flower goo, except for intercourse with the opposite sex, any contact with the opposite sex can temporarily stop goo poison is suppressed. That's why the younger generation was able to, well, that's it. Okay, you don't have to say much. Mu Zinlin's cheeks became even redder, she lowered her head, and didn't dare to look directly at the young man in front of her. I said it before, it was because I was negligent for a while, and didn't notice that the poisonous stove of goo poison had spread to the vicinity of Danshan. Hastily running the King's-in-ju to expel the poison has actually exacerbated its outbreak. It's okay, take your time. The young man said, as the uncle said, the demon emperor and his concubine will not dare to come up for a while, we still have time. While speaking, he had already made a steaming pot of spiritual tea. Master, Here it is. What's this? Muse Inland's willow eyebrows were slightly clustered, and her face was vigilant. Top-grade spiritual tea, fire element, Sanyang Jade Warm Tea, has the magical effect of clearing the heart and warming the body. The love flower goo is a strong negative poison. After drinking this tea, my uncle may recover faster. Seeing that the other party was still hesitant, the young man added, "This tea is also the master's favorite drink. The uncle and the master have two souls in one body, so I must be able to taste it. Real or fake?" After some hesitation, Muse Inland finally took the tea bowl and took a tentative sip. The flawless and beautiful sky face with white walls also revealed a relaxed and happy look. For the first time, she took a serious look at the young man in front of her. After a long time, she said with emotion, "Well, it's really not bad. You are good at serving people. No wonder that woman likes you so much. By the way, that woman also taught you the art of making tea." "It's not Master Xinyan, this is my first master who taught me." The young man shook his head, and said unhurriedly, "My master Kaiming is an evil cultivator who is good at refining alchemy and making goo. He taught me many things, including the skill of making tea. As long as I have to practice everything he teaches to the extreme, otherwise, master will use various unexpected methods to punish me." "I see." Muse Inland drank a few sips of tea and asked again, "So, this is the reason why you left the teacher's sect?" "I didn't leave the teacher's door." The young man shook his head, "My sect has been destroyed." "Huh? There are other things like this? A sect will be destroyed as soon as it is said. Is there really no order in this eastern land, Demon Deo?" Muse Inland frowned, her eyes flashed a trace of coldness. "Humph, it seems that I am indeed following the way of heaven to clean up this group of scum." "No, it was destroyed by me," the boy said calmly. "You destroyed your own division." Muse Inland's body shook, the teacup in her hand shook violently, and the tea splashed out. After a while, she seemed to try her best to calm down, and looked at the rare formless demon next to her. "What's the reason?" "For survival." The young man said calmly, "Master wants to drain the blood from my body, and I still have a lot of things I want to do, and I can't satisfy the old man, so I can only act first." Hiss. Seeing the young man speak calmly about the murder of his teacher back then, Muse Inland took a deep breath, the shock in her eyes could not be concealed. Seeing the young man speak calmly about the murder of his teacher back then, Muse Inland took a deep breath, the shock in her eyes could not be concealed. After taking a sip of warm tea and calming down, she asked curiously again, "Then, what about you and that little junior sister King Mei? Let me tell you about it." The young man was slightly taken aback, and said, "How could the uncle know about my junior sister? Didn't I tell you before?" Muse Inland raised her eyebrows slightly. "Before that woman Musinyan woke me up, we talked for a long time. She told me everything about you and told you." Speaking of this, her cheeks flushed slightly, and she lowered her head, "Entrusted to me." The young man nodded, and looked into the void with a look of disappointment on his face. "So, you're not going to tell me?" Muse Inland asked. "Uncle, you are very strange now." The boy looked back at the woman and said with a puzzled expression, "Strangeness?" Muse Inland was taken aback for a moment, and then, perhaps thinking that she had a bad manner, she quickly straightened her bun and clothes, and said, "What's so strange about me?" "You brat, why don't you make it clearer?" The young man shook his head and said, "1 hour ago, Master just woke you up. Although you promised Master to protect me, you looked at me with hostility, wishing to swallow me alive. And now, Uncle, don't you find it strange? You are drinking tea and chatting with a demon who will definitely be eradicated in the future." Muse Inland was speechless, bit her lips, and glanced to the side. "I'm afraid you're thinking too much. I don't have the slightest interest in your affairs, and I just drank your tea and chatted politely. Yes. The young man cupped his hands respectfully and said, then next, uncle, please cultivate well and break through the 7 absolute slaughter immortal formation as soon as possible. After all, I want to go outside. But was stopped by a cold female voice. You wait for me. At this moment, the demon emperor is guarding the foot of the mountain. Where are you going? Uncle, don't get me wrong, I won't leave the cave. The young man looked back at the beautiful woman leaning on the cold jade bed with a pair of beautiful bare feet. Didn't the uncle notice that you are missing something? Ah. Muse Inland was slightly taken aback, and was about to ask a question. Suddenly, a pair of pure white silk socks appeared in the boy's palm. You perverted boy! What are you trying to do by stealing my socks? Muse Inland's beautiful eyes widened, and she asked coldly. You misremembered, uncle. The boy shook his head. Since you woke up until now, you haven't worn socks. These belong to my master, not yours. So what? What do you want to use it for now? This cave is humid, and master is extremely cleanliness, so I wash master's socks every night and put them to dry at the door of the cave. In this way, master will have new socks at noon the next day. War. The boy said very seriously. You boy. Muse Inland lowered her head and said with complicated eyes, hey, I never expected that you, an innate demon who is destined to become a saint, would serve a woman so obediently. That woman has some ways of controlling people. What is the way to control people? The young man frowned, and said coldly, Master, please don't use filthy thoughts to speculate on the pure love between me and master. Big love again. Muse Inland laughed and said, I've heard this word countless times from Musinyan. So, what is this so-called great love between you master and apprentice? Do you know? The young man thought for a long time, and said word by word, if this great love is really to be concreted, it is what I did to you just now when your poisonous poison took hold. Ah! Muse Inland's red lips parted slightly, and she groaned softly. Then, perhaps because the scenes of the two of them being intimate just now were recalled in her mind, her pretty face flushed instantly, and she didn't know what to say. Uncle, don't think too much. I don't know if he saw the embarrassment of the other party, the boy explained, the reason why I did that just now is because I saw you in pain. You know, your body is also the body of the master. In other words, everything I do is for master, not for you, understand? Hearing this, Muse Inland, who has cultivated herself for many years and had a heart like a mirror, couldn't bear it any longer, and jumped up against the table. The Taoist Suan who had been lonely and proud all her life now has a look of frustration on her face. What? This seat has become a substitute. Muse Inland came up to the young man in a flash, and asked in a rough voice, so, you are so respectful to me just now, both comforting and making tea, purely because of it. My current body also belongs to that woman, right? When she said the last 2 words, her voice visibly trembled, and her eyes were a little red. Yes. The boy said sincerely, because I want to survive. Only by leaving Danghun Mountain alive will we have a chance in the future to prove the Taoism, enter the world of death in the underworld, and retrieve the soul of the master. After hearing this, Muse Inland was stunned for a long time, then a wry smile appeared on the corner of her mouth. Very well, that woman didn't misread you in the end. This seat admits that you two, master and apprentice, are indeed a heart-to-heart exchange. But so what? What's the big deal? Huh? I, Muse Inland, hold the banner of the righteous way, purify the world, and all living beings are in awe. I don't need these low-level emotions at all. I don't even need a useless vase-like disciple who is devoted to me. This seat is invincible in the world alone, enjoying glory and solitude. No matter what, I, Muse Inland, are far better than her, Musinyan. I don't know if the poison in her body has eroded part of her sanity, but she lost control of her emotions as she spoke, and her voice became hysterical. Gradually, a line of clear tears also fell from her eyes. After a long time, she gradually calmed down, waved her hand dejectedly and said, "Bai Qingling, don't worry, I will definitely do what I promised that woman. This seat is desperate to take you out of this Danghun mountain intact." She finished speaking. The boy behind him didn't respond at all. Boy, why don't you leave?" She frowned, and was about to say something, when suddenly a pair of strong arms stretched over her waist, completely hugging herself from behind. "Uncle, how about?" The thoughts in his heart burst out at this moment, and the young man clung to the body of the master's warm and fragrant nephrite, and said to the stunned Suanv senior uncle, who was pale and stunned, and whispered, "You also join this great love?" Muse Inlan, d. Passers-by outside. All the girls. Bai Feng. Just when the whole audience was shocked, waiting with fear on the face of this Taoist Suanv in the picture, when she would drop her anger. The perspective of the memory screen suddenly trembled violently. A series of clanging sounds came. The next moment, Suanv and Mojun in the picture seemed to sense some change at the same time, and each took a step back. "The magic sword seems to feel something," Bai Qingling said solemnly. "It seems that the dwarf demon emperor can no longer sit still." Muse Inlan also looked solemnly, pondered for a moment, and suddenly asked, "Bai Qingling, can I trust you?" The young man was slightly taken aback, as if he had no idea why the other party asked this question. "Answer me." Muse Inlan's beautiful eyes looked coldly at the man in front of her, the man her sister loves the most. Her eyes became a little complicated, or to put it another way, will you betray me in the future? I recommend a friend's new harem book, Cultivating Immortals, Can You Only Love Love? If you are interested, you can read it. I love the Demon Lord, my female disciples are all sick and delicate. Author, Ji Shi Shui Bao. Chapter 156. What do you mean by master uncle? Bai Qingling looked at the Taoist Suanv with a blank expression. Your Bai family's breath-holding technique, the observation of qi mechanism, is meticulous. You just felt the change inside the formation, didn't you? Muse Inlan asked back. Yes. Bai Qingling pointed to the magic sword next to her. It's not only me, Xinyan, it also feels it. What do you call this sword? Muse Inlan's eyes widened with shock. Ahem, this is not important. Bai Qingling said, Uncle Master, let's get back to business. I did feel that the energy of the surrounding formations is constantly converging and gathering, and the spiritual pressure fluctuations in the cave are getting bigger and bigger. All of this, can it be is that Demon Emperor making trouble again? Do you know why the dwarf's formation is called Kija Slaughter Immortal Formation? Muse Inlan asked. I don't know. Bai Qingling shook his head and said, Master, please show me. The 7 Absolute Slaughter Immortal Formation was exactly what the first Demon Emperor gathered the power of the 8 major demon sect masters in front of the Reincarnation Tower outside the Demon Emperor's palace and exhausted countless efforts to deal with the invasion of extraterritorial heavenly demons. And the name of the formation, Kiju, actually refers to the 7 kinds of killings: earth, fire, wind, water, earth, thunder, and demons. If anyone from the upper realm dares to break into this formation, within 7 days, they will be subjected to these 7 kinds of killings in turn, until the gods and bodies are completely wiped out. In other words, the true power of this formation has already broken through the shackles of this world, and is enough to obliterate the true immortal. I see. Bai Qingling nodded thoughtfully, and asked again, so, the abnormal spiritual pressure we feel at present is because the Demon Emperor activated the real killing method of the Kija Slaughter Immortal Formation. Good. Muse Inlan said, if my guess is correct, today, we are about to usher in the first catastrophe, the catastrophe of the Earth's cry, and those who die in this catastrophe will have their souls permanently stuck in the broken boundary of the earth's crust. Among them, one must not be reincarnated. How about it, Bai Qingling, are you afraid now? Having said that, she narrowed her magnificent and deep eyes of reincarnation, and looked at the innate demon boy who was destined to be honored by the demon way. Why are you afraid? The young man said indifferently, although this junior is not very old, the pain and torture he has suffered in this life is far beyond what my uncle can imagine. This time it is just a death anyway. After finishing speaking, he asked again, wait, uncle, I have a question. What question? Since the Demon King's immortal slaying 7 absolute formation is so powerful, why didn't he activate the 7 tribulations killing secrets hidden in the formation at the beginning? Instead, he only used this formation to trap us. The real reason for this is irony. Muse Inland said with a half smile, because of the current demon emperor, Zhangbaila is a complete waste. He can't compare to his ancestors. Once the Kija-killing immortal formation is fully activated and the spirits in it are consumed, with his ability, it is impossible to create another 7 Juexian killing formation. At the same time, this also means that he will lose this protective barrier forever. Next time, if there is a peerless powerhouse who wants to assassinate and take his life, it will be much easier. However, it can also be seen from this that the dwarf has already spared no expense in order to get rid of me this time. She finished speaking. Boom. A sharp piercing sound came. Outside the cave, a blazing sphere of light, mixed with a world-shattering power, struck towards the two of them. Bai Qingling. I leave it to you. Let me see. What kind of disciple Musinian has taught? Not intending to make a move at all, the Taoist Suanv shouted at the tall boy next to her with a cold face. Next moment. Choke. A more domineering cold light passed by. The youth's magic sword was unsheathed. The majestic purple sword light, like the Yuyan from hell, spread in the void, quickly enveloping the ball of light completely. Under this powerful slash, the mysterious ball of light was suddenly wiped out. Immediately afterwards, there was only a sharp sound of "pa," and it exploded in response. It turned out to be a hard and incomparable clod of soil. Tisk tisk, it's only been a month since you practiced swordsmanship with that woman, and with just a single strike of your sword, you've already made such an appearance. Muse Inland gave the young man a complicated look. I'm looking forward to the confrontation with you in 100 years' time. Ahem, Master Uncle, we are tied to the same boat now, it's really hurtful to keep bringing up this matter. The young man smiled wryly, and asked, by the way, what I chopped up just now was the earth-crying tribulation. The power is not as terrifying as imagined. You think too much. Muse Inland said coldly, the ground chime has just been launched, and it was just an appetizer. Tonight, until the first ray of dawn falls, there will be countless attacks like the one just now on Danghun Mountain, which is at the center of the formation. And the power is even more frightening. I'm talking about this, do you have a trace of fear in your heart? She looked at the boy again, with a hint of amusement in her eyes. However, this time, she still failed to see the slightest bit of hesitation and fear in the young man's eyes. Yes, it's just the look of a domineering king who overcomes all obstacles. She has never seen such a peerless demeanor who is proud of the world and despises the god of death before, in any of the righteous younger generation Tianxiao. Hey, you kid, it would be great if there were no demons in your body, I can try to be with you. Her beautiful eyes were slack, she looked at the young man bewilderedly, and muttered to herself. But the other party interrupted coldly, Uncle, what's the use of lamenting these things in the face of the predicament? If there were no formless demons, then I would no longer be who I am today. In other words, no matter what I suffer, I, Bai Qingling, never complain about the fate attached to me, because what doesn't kill me, only makes me stronger. Speaking of this, The magic sword in his hand let out a long and joyful clank, as if echoing its master. "You are fine." Muse Inland stared at the young man for a few seconds, then glanced away, and said quietly, "I seem to understand why that woman is willing to do that for you. You kid. It does have a bit of charm on it." Speaking of this, her expression became cold again. "Bai Qingling, go back to our original conversation. If you and I are reduced to a dilemma and must join forces to fight against the enemy, will you betray me?" Muse Inland looked at the young man again, and there was a strong emotional color in those indifferent fairy pupils that shone with divine splendor. "It seems that I am looking forward to the boy's answer. Master, do you want to listen to the truth?" The boy asked a question. "Certainly." "Okay, my answer is," the boy replied after a moment of pondering, "it's time to score. Time share." "Good." The young man said very seriously, "As long as you and I are still trapped in this Danghun mountain, I will try my best to cooperate with you to break the situation together even if someone is risking his life. But after leaving Danghun mountain? Not necessarily." A sad smile appeared on the corner of the young man's mouth. "Uncle, don't forget, you are a saint who slays demons, and my nephew, I am a born demon. Since you are bound to kill me, I will naturally make some resistance." "Well said." Muse Inland's expression was quite moved. After pondering for a while, she said again, "So, before you and I get out of Danghun Mountain, I can trust you unconditionally, right?" "Yes." With a straight and tall body, the young demon venerable said with awe-inspiring eyes, "If I prove the Dao demon venerable in the future, I will also be a gentleman." "A gentleman promises to practice it with blood." "Okay. Since that's the case, then, the uncle also promises you one thing." Muse Inland's tone was surprisingly gentle, and she moved lightly, getting closer to the boy. Muse Inland's tone was surprisingly gentle, and she moved lightly, getting closer to the boy. Moreover, for the first time in front of the young man, she did not call herself the Seat, but used the affectionate title of Uncle Master. "I, Muse Inland, will die here this time, and my cultivation for the 9th generation will be ruined. I will definitely bring you out of Danghun Mountain alive." When she said this, her beautiful eyes were firm and burning, and she exuded an invisible and powerful aura. The demeanor of a peerless strong man who is like the number one person in the Taoist sect. "Uncle, we can definitely do it." The young man also seemed to be a little moved, changed his previous indifference and alienation, and said softly with his eyes, "Yes, what Qingling means is that I want to get out alive. Uncle, you must do the same. Before that, Qingling, I will do my best to help you and protect you, and give you the great love Master Xinyan taught me." He finished speaking from the bottom of his heart. The eye sockets of the Taoist Suanv in front of her were a little red. "I didn't speak for a long time." In the picture, from the perspective of the magic sword floating in the air, the pair of handsome uncles and nephews, who look like heaven and man, just stared at each other silently. At the same time, the tense, guarded, and even hostile atmosphere between the two has completely disappeared. The surrounding aura has even become somewhat subtle. "Uncle, what's the matter with you?" Finally, the teenager broke the calm. "It's nothing, you kid." "Well, you're quite brave, and I'm a little shocked." An imperceptible sad smile appeared on the corner of Muse Inland's mouth. "I really didn't expect that there are people in this world who dare to be so arrogant and say that they want to protect this seat. Bai Qingling, you are definitely not in the pool." The boy was slightly taken aback, but there was no interface. "Okay, time is running out. Since the dwarf demon emperor has used his trump card, we should do something." "Well?" This junior is waiting for the words of the uncle. The young man's expression was suddenly excited. "Master, what's the next plan? What does Qingling need to do?" "Just say it." "What this seed has to do is very simple. Come on, you." You are closer to this seat. Muse Inlan lowered her head, a blush suddenly appeared on her beautiful face. Ah! Yes. Although the boy looked suspicious, he still followed his words and came to the side of the other party. However, out of a certain kind of vigilance in his heart, he held the magic sword tightly throughout the whole process, with a solemn expression on his face, not daring to slack off in the slightest. Closer. Does this seat scare you so much? As if noticing the young man's vigilance, Muse Inlan bit her lips, her expression seemed sullen, and she blurted out, "You little devil, don't you even dare to sleep in the same bed with that woman." The boy quickly shook his head. "It's different, it's different. The master is the master, and the uncle is." He didn't finish his sentence. The next moment, the scene in front of him completely left him speechless. I saw this Uncle Suanv, who was almost exactly the same as the master, removed the outermost neon dress and shawl. In front of him without any scruples, she showed her beautiful shoulders that were white, straight, and beautifully curvy. "Master, you here?" The young man looked terrified, as if he had thought of something. He took a step back instinctively, and was about to flee. But she was held by a pair of snow-white and beautiful slender hands. "Bai Ching, no, nephew, just now you said that no matter what, you will never betray me." The holy and immaculate Taoist Suanv who does not eat the fireworks of the world, her cheeks are completely red at this moment, and she lifts a strand of hair on her forehead, completely revealing a perfectly proportioned melon-seeded face that is both fairy-like and charming. Due to her extremely tall figure, she raised her head slightly, and it was enough to see the boy's whole appearance. "So, is this sentence true?" Of course it's true. But. Perhaps because he sensed that something was wrong with the atmosphere, the young demon venerable, who had always been brave and fearless, looked very panicked at this moment. No need to say much. Muse Inlan took out a hair band, completely raised her long hair, and turned her body sideways, facing the boy with her back unreservedly. Because her figure is extremely graceful, as if made by a god, even wearing a white fairy dress, her waist and hip curves are still very eye-catching. "Master, this is you." The young man finally thought of something, blushed, and waved his hands. "It's impossible. Only this thing. It's absolutely impossible." However, his vehement objections were ignored. Ninth reincarnation, the Taoist Suanv who has insight into the world of mortals, her beautiful eyes slanted back, her tone was cold and stern, but she said with a little tenderness, "Qingling, today my uncle will completely leave the rest to you. This is also the fastest way to break the situation that my uncle can think of. Don't let the uncle down." Hearing this, the young man seemed to understand something completely. He looked shy and covered his face with his hands. After a while, he threw the magic sword in his hand towards the cliff outside the cave, and facing the sword spirit bred in the sword, he ordered coldly, "Go. Go and investigate the movement of the demon emperor. Master, I have some important you have to deal with the matter with the uncle. Don't peek." Zheng. Followed by the magic sword humming submissively. The memory picture on the sky also followed the perspective of the magic sword, and came to the foot of the vast mountain. Suddenly there was a voice in the distance. "Your Majesty the Demon Emperor, you don't hesitate to exhaust the spirits of the seven absolute slaughtering immortal formation, offering a heaven-defying killing to suppress and kill Muse Inlan. Wouldn't it be too wasteful?" A vicissitudes of the old man's voice came. It's nothing. Your Excellency has spent a lot of effort to help me transport the seven Jew slaughter immortal formation here. If I don't completely wipe out Muse Inlan, will I be sorry for your efforts?" said another rough and hoarse voice. The voice was so recognizable that everyone outside the venue guessed the identity of the speaker. It was the dwarf demon emperor who appeared before, Zhangbaile. And with the angle of view of the magic sword, it gradually moved towards the source of the sound. On the hill in the lower left corner of the screen. Impressively, Zhangbaile, the demon emperor dressed in a gilded dragon robe of 100 beasts, appeared. Next to him, impressively stood a white-bearded old man with an immortal demeanor and a handsome appearance. It was at this moment when the old man's true face appeared. Outside the arena, in the Palace of Bliss, some guests who are close to the Kangming sect shouted excitedly. "Hey, this old man looks familiar. I seem to have seen it somewhere. Don't seem like it?" The memory of the demon lord, when it was first exposed in the Flame Demon Tower, this old man appeared. "That's right. I remembered. It's him. It's the mysterious old man who encouraged Demon Venerable to destroy the sect and gave him a copy of Secret Book of Gu Venerable. Damn it. This old guy has just met the Demon King face to face. Why did he come to the Demon Palace again in a blink of an eye? He must have no good intentions. Cough cough cough. I didn't say that. Our focus shouldn't be, what did Mu Shen do with Demon Venerable? Why don't you care about this old man? That's right. What is this forced raised magic sword doing? Hurry up and change the angle of view for Grandpa. Inside the Four Elephants Palace, Bai Feng, who regained this memory, calmed down for a long time, and looked at Mu Xinlan not far away again. 100 years later, this Mu Shenv, who had become stronger, more mature, and charming, covered her face with her hands, and her expression was shyer than her own. Totally afraid to meet people like that? Ahem, Holy Maiden Mu, why is this so? One thing, you have to be clear. Bai Feng cleared his throat to break the silence. At that time, no matter what contact we had between you and me, it had nothing to do with your soul. Everything is for my master Xinyan. Finish this sentence. He glanced at him again from the corner of his eye. But I saw this Taoist Suanv staring at herself with wet red eyes. The eyes are full of feminine resentment. Under the familiar and nostalgic eyes of the other party, Bai Feng's heart was shocked, and he quickly changed the subject. Okay, instead of worrying about this, let's talk about something more interesting. You should have seen it. At that time, the mysterious helper who helped the Demon Emperor suppress you was none other than the Kunlun Daoist sect master, Xiao Chen's master Yugzuzi. He is the mastermind behind everything, and being as high as you is just a pawn. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I love the Demon Lord. My female disciples are all sick and delicate. Author, Ji Shi Shui Bao Ao. Chapter 157. Chapter 156. The Betrayal of the Demon Lord. Yugzuzi. Why did he seek refuge with the Demon Emperor? Mu Xinlan's beautiful eyes were terrified, and her face was full of shock. Under extreme doubts, she even looked at her old enemy next to her, trying to get an answer from him. Take refuge. Bai Feng sneered and said, Saint Mu, you really underestimate this old man's ambition. On the one hand, he actively responded to your plan to slay demons, and sent his personal disciple Xiao Chen to go undercover. Righteousness and evil, there are only ambitions to surpass all living beings. In other words, in Yu Suzu's eyes, whether it's the Demon Emperor or you, the Holy Maiden Mu, they're just tool people who will be trampled under his feet sooner or later. Bai Qingling, shut up. Mu Xinlan's expression returned to coldness. What is Yugzuzi's intentions? I will find out after I return to Middle-earth. After all, this is also my private matter of the righteous way of Middle-earth. It has nothing to do with you. Mu Xinlan, this is the gap between you and my master. A stubborn and self-righteous woman like you will never have someone who really likes you, and you will never realize what love is. Bai Feng glanced at the other party in disgust. Forget it, since you and I have already talked about this, why don't we have a showdown? Speaking of this, his eyes suddenly turned cold. Mu Xinlan, you used the 9 tribulations essence to come here with Lin Mo's body as the carrier, but to fight this deity. There is no need to waste time. Let the horse come here. Although his expression was domineering and cold, he showed the demeanor of a demon king. But I still feel a little flustered. Yes. Although he has regained all his viscera and 6 internal organs, his strength has returned to 80 to 90% of the peak period. But facing 100 years later, the more powerful Taoist Suanv has almost no chance of winning. You know, in the original work of Immortal Love, Muse Inlan, who is at the end of the 9th reincarnation, is almost the existence of Karma Lorenz Huli. Broken. With this in mind, Bai Feng secretly activated the heavenly demon transformation dragon scripture, ready to transform the dragon across the void at all times, and on the other hand, he found out the 9 transformation cicada hidden deep in the purple mansion. Get ready. Both hands must be hard. He Bai Laumo is different from this ruthless old woman. In this life, he still has 3 apprentices who love him, a goddaughter, and junior sister King Meiranjir. Absolutely can't be here in advance. Bai Feng stared at the silent Taoist Suanv. The heartbeat is also getting faster and faster. Unexpectedly, facing his declaration of war, Muse Inlan glanced at her beautiful eyes, and said leisurely, "Why, boy, are you in a hurry?" Bai Feng was slightly taken aback, narrowed his eyes and said, "What are you talking about, holy maiden Mu? As you said, you and I are born enemies. Now that we meet again after 100 years, we should naturally be the real ones one game, isn't it? But I don't want to for the time being." Muse Inlan lowered her eyes, her jade hands were placed on her knees, and her tone was a bit quiet and lonely. This. Bai Feng raised his eyebrows slightly, but he didn't know how to answer these words. And looking at the other party's expression, it seems that he has no desire to do anything. "Heh, holy maiden Mu, why are you putting on a show?" Bai Feng said coldly, "You recruited Ji Taimei and sent brother and sister Lin Mo, that's not right. They are sisters now. In short, you carefully planned the murderous situation of the Demon Dao conference, isn't it all to get rid of me, Bai Qingling? You know Xian Xian is." Muse Inlan's eyes flashed, and she said in a trembling voice, "It's just a plan." Bai Feng said coldly, "So, have you followed Xian Xian?" Muse Inlan gritted her teeth and couldn't help asking. "Tisk." Bai Feng smacked his lips, and glanced at the other party with a half-smile. "Muse Inlan, you are a holy and righteous saint, why do you care so much about this matter? This seat does not have one." Muse Inlan closed her eyes, calmed down and said, "It's up to you, since you have seen the clue, it was my mistake, and I can't blame anyone. So, can you make a decision now?" Bai Feng issued another ultimatum. "Anyway, this moment will come sooner or later. It's better for him, old demon Bai, to take a step ahead and catch him off guard. Bai Qingling, do you know?" Muse Inlan was silent for a long time, as if talking to herself. She said quietly, "Originally, I entrusted the 9 tribulations essence to Lin Mo, because I really wanted to take the risk of destroying my body when I had to. In the body of his son of destiny, he will fight to the death with you, but now. What's the matter now? Are you scared?" Bai Feng raised his eyebrows and said. Muse Inlan looked up at the frozen memory on the sky. "When I saw the memory of you and me in the past, many emotions that had been dusty for a long time, which I thought I had forgotten, suddenly boiled up, so." She turned her head, and her magnificent and beautiful fairy pupils were actually a little flushed. "Bai Qingling, let's finish this paragraph. I believe that when I see the scene of you betraying me again, I will be more determined to make a final settlement with you. It can be regarded as the final footnote for this bad relationship between you and me in the past. Can you?" When she uttered the last 3 words, the tone of the always cold and powerful Taoist Suanv was a bit begging. At this moment, she looked at the mature and handsome Mojun in front of her, and her eyes were full of the shadow of that young man who had been in trouble with her. The most powerful person in the evil way is also staring at the Suanv of the righteous way. The originally chilling atmosphere has now become somewhat subtle. After a while, he made the final answer, yes. Look. It's moving. The memory screen is finally moving. Damn it, I finally don't have to look at that dwarf demon emperor. I want to see the demon emperor's domineering master. Brother Deo, calm down. The demon emperor can't scold you. You can't get your butt crooked. There's nothing wrong with it. If the demon lord takes Muzinlan down, husband and wife with two swords, is there still a need for the demon emperor to exist? Having said that, if the demon emperor really attacked Muzinlan, what would that master Xinyan do? Whose blood is it? That's enough, that's enough. Everyone be quiet. Excitement needs strength. Following everyone's gaze, they gradually focused on the sky. In the center of the memory picture, the pale and handsome boy reappeared, as well as the flawless saint in a white gauze dress. That's right on the top of the cliff. Uncle, is this what you said you would leave the rest to me? So that's how it is. Also, have you successfully passed the tribulation of Earthcry? Qingling didn't let you down, right? Holding the magic sword in his hand, the young man panted and looked at the woman behind him. Under his feet, there were crushed stones and debris. Yes, you are doing well. Mushenv, who closed her eyes and meditated all the time, nodded her head, and then sighed, hey, the poison of the mere love goo, I can completely refine it with the supreme immortal method of Misty Cloud Palace Hua, I didn't expect that woman to treat you. Cough cough, in short, because of her failure to live up to expectations, the poisonous stove of the poisonous poison has expanded uncontrollably, and the poison has already spread to my way. Perineum point. Therefore, apart from that direct solution, I can only take a slanted sword and come up with a strange move. Crazy move. The young man asked curiously, then what is the uncle planning to do? Listen, Qingling. Muzinlan still had her eyes closed, but her voice was rare and gentle, Master, this body has gone through 9 reincarnations. In order to leave a way out for myself, before each reincarnation, I will engrave a Deo mark on my body. In this way, if one day my body is on the verge of collapse, I can read these Deo marks, inherit the wisdom of the previous life, and return the soul and body to the state of the previous life. Ah, there is such a wonderful method in this world. The young demon venerable looked surprised, and said again, then, isn't the uncle invincible? From the soul to the body, there is no flaw at all. Are you kidding me? Muzinlan sneered. The young man blushed, bowed his head and pondered for a while, then nodded, yes. But only half of it? Which half? Muzinlan slightly opened her eyes, looking at the calm young man in front of her. Master Uncle said that after 100 years, you will definitely take my life. Therefore, from this moment on, Qingling told herself that no matter how relaxed the relationship between me and my uncle is at this moment, you and I will be mortal enemies after all. Therefore, it is reasonable to try to detect the weakness of the deadly enemy, right? The young man said calmly. You are honest, you are a real gentleman. Muzinlan didn't look sullen, and said slowly, to tell you the truth, with the reincarnation of life after life, my soul power has become stronger and stronger, but because every critical moment, I always stop the ascension, the physical body has been backlashed by the heavens, and it has become more and more decayed. Therefore, I have used the method of Deo mark reincarnation many times, and now this is the last time. So. She squinted her eyes and looked expectantly at the young man who had begun to look like a strong man in front of her. Young man, stick to the way in your heart and live well. Then, give the uncle a truly wonderful decisive battle. After saying this, crystal tears shone in her magnificent eyes. He quickly turned his face aside. The young man took a deep breath, and looked at the beautiful woman on the ground solemnly. Master, I promise you. 100 years from now, no matter where Qingling is or what his cultivation level is, I will not hesitate to go to the Valley of Sealing Demons to meet my appointment. I will have a hearty battle with you. As for the result, it doesn't matter anymore. Anyway, if Qingling can get out of Danghun Mountain alive today, it must be saved by my uncle, and this cause should also bear fruit in your hands. Good boy, when that day comes, I will try my best to give you a decent one. Muse Inland couldn't restrain the emotion in her heart any longer, and she shed a tear. Don't talk about it, uncle, 100 years is too long, let's seize the day. Seeing that the uncle was in a sad mood, the young man smiled, and changed the topic. Uncle, the formation-killing calamity triggered by the dwarf demon emperor, the calamity of earth sounding has come to an end. According to the order, the next round will be its lava fire calamity, right? Yes. Muse Inland's expression returned to seriousness. Listen well, Qingling, this lava fire calamity is fierce and powerful, and it is even more powerful than the previous earth calamity. Therefore, the sword formulas taught to you by my sister alone may not be effective. Simply. She hesitated for a while, then gritted her teeth and said, Uncle Master, let me teach you the ice element immortal technique of Misty Cloud Palace. Ah! The boy was startled for a moment, then shook his head and said, No. Why not? Muse Inland frowned. I'm already Master's disciple, how can I accept your martial arts? Presumably if Master knows, she won't be happy. You kid. You think a lot. Muse Inland looked displeased, and said, You call me Master Uncle, in a sense, isn't it justifiable to accept my gift of exercises? Furthermore, you should have noticed that when I cast Deo Mark Reincarnation Dafa, the mana in my body is temporarily in a vacuum, no different from ordinary mortals, and I can't resist the fierce killing array of the 7 Jew slaughter immortal formation. This is why I just asked you if I can trust you unconditionally. You have just made a promise to me to protect the law with all your strength, do you want to regret it now? No, Qingling will do things all her life, but I hope she will have no regrets. The young man gritted his teeth and said, I'm sorry, Uncle Master, Qingling made a mistake. In extraordinary times, you should use extraordinary ways to survive. Only hope can survive. This is what Master often teaches me. Very good, now that you understand this truth, time is running out, let's start teaching the exercises now. A look of relief appeared on Muse Inland's face. The next day. Although the memory picture began to change rapidly. But everyone could still clearly see that the tenderness in each other's eyes was getting stronger and stronger when the young Mojun and the Suan teacher uncle were imparting their skills. At first glance, they look like a couple of master and apprentice, not at all like fateful enemies who are doomed to live and die. Uncle. Qingling will meet. Qingling has mastered the 8th level of profound meaning of Xianbing Jianzhu. Following the excited voice of the young demon venerable. But the frame was fixed on Muse Inland's beautiful cheek with a smile. Uncle Master. The young man slapped the woman in white who was as calm as water in front of him, and the smile on his face froze suddenly. How? Muse Inland asked. Ah, Master Uncle, so you know how to laugh too, he he. The usually gloomy and steady boy had a simple and honest smile on his face. Nonsense. One day before I ascended, I was immortal. Naturally, I also had joys, sorrows, and sorrows. Muse Inland restrained the smile on her face, and her voice was deliberately indifferent. Qingling really thinks, Uncle should smile more. The young man sat down, leaning against his uncle's side with his tall body. I don't know if it's because of sharing will and woe, and the grace of imparting merit. For the first time, the two enemies of fate completely put down their guard and got very close. Why? Muse Inland cast a glance at the young man, sneered, and said, "The world is bitter and cold, there are not many things in this world to be happy about." No, at least at this moment, I saw a smile on my uncle's face, didn't I, let alone. The young man smiled and said, "Master Uncle is very beautiful when he smiles." Ah! Muse Inland was slightly taken aback, and then, her cheeks flushed red at a speed visible to the naked eye. "What nonsense are you talking about, you kid? I am the leader of the Taoist sect, the ancestor of Yunggong, and I don't care about the skin and flesh at all." "Care? Well, Qingling knows that, uncle, you are like this." Seeing the other party's expression turn serious, the young man stopped talking nonsense. But I heard a weak voice from the side. "By the way, kid, you just praised me as beautiful, so how does it compare to that woman?" "Which woman?" The young man was slightly startled, and then realized later, "Is it my master Xinyan?" "Yes, it is." Muse Inland nodded heavily, her beautiful eyes were flickering, she sneaked a glance at the young man, and repeated, "Is she good looking?" The young man thought for a while, and said seriously, "In Kingling's eyes, the grandeur of my uncle is only inferior to my master." "What?" Muse Inland's pretty face turned angry, and then maybe because there was no one else around, she didn't care about the image of a Taoist Suanv, she stood up, and a violent chestnut bounced on the boy's head. "Stinky boy! You've been boasting for a long time. It turns out that you are using the seed to elevate your master. Look for a fight." "Master, don't want it. Qingling will only tell the truth in this life. In terms of appearance alone, except for Master Shizun, you are really the most beautiful woman Qingling has ever seen." Seeing that the uncle's expression was not good, and he threw his fist at him, the young man hurriedly got up to dodge. Okay. Uncle, stop beating. Qingling is wrong. Kingling's eyes are not good. In fact, you are as beautiful as master. On par. Next. The two of them were in the cave, chasing each other, fighting, and the atmosphere became inexplicably sweet and harmonious. This sudden warm style of painting. Everyone outside the arena also watched with gusto, discussing enthusiastically. Tisk tisk. I didn't expect that the two future powerhouses, the top figures in Yunzhou continent, would have such a cute side in private. Damn. Don't say it. They seem to be right. This expired candy is so damn sweet. Brother. Please stop knocking. You said the same thing when Mokai and Master Xinyan were together just now. It's different. When Mu Xinyan and Mo Jun are together, it's more like a big sister taking care of the younger generation, but Mo Jun and Mu Xinlan are like a young couple. That's right. Everyone, don't forget. The future Demon Lord went to the Demon Ceiling Valley for an appointment, and he was completely opposed to Mu Xinlan. How sweet it is now. How cruel the ending will be. Hey, it would be great if time could be frozen at this moment. I believe that the two big brothers will occasionally reminisce about this time of suffering together, right? Just when everyone was full of emotion. Above the sky, the memory picture suddenly changed. Inside the cave, the young demon Venerable Bai Qingling, who was soaked in blood and covered in scars, held a magic sword filled with purple light, and walked towards the Taoist Suanv, Mu Xinlan, who was meditating in meditation with cold eyes. Next moment, let everyone's unexpected scene happen. Following the blood-red pupils of the young man, a trace of murderous intent flashed across. Choke. The magic sword is out of its sheath. He spared no effort to stab the Taoist Suanv's back. The moment the sword stabbed out, the whole audience was silent. Deathly silence. In the paradise of paradise, tens of thousands of demon cultivators felt their scalps were numb, and they felt like they were about to stop breathing. Why? Brother, why is he like this? Hua Yuerong also stared wide-eyed with a pair of round peach blossom eyes, and her snow-white and round jade hands tightly held the master's arm. Hey, I can't even get this one as a teacher. The most powerful witch in Dongtu also sighed softly, then shook her head blankly again. I love the demon lord, my female disciples are all sick and delicate. Author, Zhi Shi Shui Bao. Chapter 158. Chapter 157. Following the young demon lord in the picture, with a determined face, he pierced the Taoist Suan's back with a sword. Off the field, there was a wave of excitement. My God! What is the devil doing? He stabbed Mu Xinlan in the back. No. To be exact. He is killing the master. Mu Xinlan and Mu Xinyan are one body and two souls. First there was Xia Yaoshi, and then there was Mu Xinyan. It's true to score twice. This is too filial. No. There is definitely something missing. You should know the previous scene, the relationship between Mo Jun and Mu Xinlan has gradually eased. What could be wrong? Qingling Demon Venerable has always been like this. For his own benefit, everything can be killed. The so-called Great Love Immortal Venerable is just a nickname you wish to give to others. I don't accept it. This plot is absolutely not acceptable. At the same time, on the VIP seats in the hall on the first floor, Han Jiniang also looked sad, with a lonely expression. Bad man, I thought you were a passionate person in your bones, but I didn't expect that you will always be a bitch, and you have never changed. You will never change because of others' kindness to you. So, what do you do to me? Since the night in the Zaixing Tower, after you and I met strangely, I, Yun Jin'er, asked myself that I am devoted to you and care about you everywhere. Will you have any real affection for me because of this? Aside from Hua Yuerong, which woman in this world is lucky enough to be that exception? She couldn't help but her eyes turned red thinking about it. Looking back towards the direction of the door, the absent man did not appear. However, she saw an extremely familiar figure. Renkin Fan, stop for me. Han Jiniang suddenly passed through the crowd and rushed over. And Yahong I sensed something, and followed. Inside the Four Elephants Palace. Senior sister, master respects him. Why did he do this? Sen Xing'er looked at the elder sister beside her. Although that Mu Shenv is a bit annoying, they are in the same boat now, aren't they? Why bother to start now? Xing'er always feels that master has done a little bit. Feng Lixia shook her head and said, Xing'er, we have gone through so many things. If we still doubt the integrity and kindness of master, then it is really hopeless. Do you understand the meaning of senior sister's words? She caressed junior sister's small face and said softly. Yeah. Xing'er understands. In an instant, the confusion in Sen Xing'er's eyes disappeared, and she firmly clenched her fists. Master must have deep meaning in doing this. It must be like this. That's why. Feng Lixu also looked firmly at the picture on the sky. So, let's see, something must have happened to the master at that time. The dome-hidden sword room not far from Yaluo Hall Erme. Mu Xinlan's eyes were also wet when she saw that scene of heartbreak and despair. Bai Qingling, do you know that the sword you stabbed me in the back is the most unforgettable thing in the long life of the ninth king? Really hurts. Bai Fen nodded, looking at the other party's sad face, wanted to say something, but swallowed it back. Shouldn't you say something? Like, a formal apology. Why should I apologize? Bai Feng shook his head, closed his eyes, and said meaningfully, people who love you don't need to apologize to anyone. Could it be that at that moment, you really had other difficulties? Mu Xinlan gritted her teeth, but finally couldn't help asking. Why, are you starting to waver? Bai Feng asked indifferently. Mu Xinlan was in a daze for a second, and then she gritted her teeth resolutely and said, I don't have any. After 100 years, I still remember the pain of that sword. Your shameful face is clearly reflected in my face. How can your mind be shaken? If I can travel back to that time now, I will definitely disregard that woman Musinion's entrustment, and chop you little devil into pieces with one sword. Contribute to the righteous way in the world. Do you know? I have already made up my mind at that time, even if I risk my life, I will let you escape from Danghun Mountain. And you, a white-eyed wolf, stabbed me in the back just to survive. You are worthy of me and that woman Musinion. By Qingling. You really deserve to die. In the end, the Daoist Suan's eyes were blood red, she was hysterical, completely lost her composure, and she didn't have the indifferent and aloof celestial style of the past. Good scolding. Baifeng said lightly, Saint Mu, please remember your current emotions. After reading the cause and effect of this memory, I hope that you can still maintain this killing intent, and don't waver. Again. The true great love immortal will not disappoint anyone in the world. Musinlan. Just when everyone sighed in disbelief, the memory picture on the sky screen changed again. But this time, the scene in the picture, as if traveling through a space-time tunnel, keeps receding. For a moment. It turned out that the memory was reversed to before the scene of the young man stabbing Musinlan in the back. Hey. I'll just say it. When something goes wrong, there must be a demon. There must be a story in it. It's so conscientious. I know we can't understand it. And I deliberately went back and slowed down the details. Seeing that the changes before the Demon King's betrayal will appear next. Everyone was sitting upright, for fear of missing a detail. It was still on the empty mountain cliff. Drenched in blood, the young man danced wildly with his sword in his hand. He practiced sharp sword energy and roared out, condensing a wave of swords like a long dragon in the void. The sword wave was so powerful that it forcibly blocked the thunderbolts falling from the sky. Bang bang bang. As if God was angry. The more and denser the thunder beams, bombard them down. As the sword wave was suppressed to a few inches, the young man also suffered some kind of terrifying backlash. His whole body shook violently, and a mouthful of blood spewed out. And behind him, the woman in white crossed her legs into meditation, her whole body intertwined with mysterious and vast Taoist rhyme. Qingling. As if sensing something, the woman in white suddenly opened her eyes, and looked worriedly at the young man guarding her. Can you still hold on? Don't worry, uncle, I can still stand it. In the desperate situation, the young man yelled loudly, spat out his blood, used his sword art, and stabbed forward with all his might. Once again, with terrifying sword energy, he split the thunder beam in front of him. Following the youth's sword light, it stretched to the extreme. Next moment, above the night sky, the dark clouds receded, the stars and the moon emerged, and everything in the world seemed to have returned to a clear state. Uncle! Look! Qingling has succeeded again. It seems that the thunder disaster has passed. The young man wept with joy, and rushed to the woman in white excitedly, regardless of being soaked in blood. Yes, you succeeded. How domineering and fierce is that Kijug formation of killing immortals, that you, a young calf, broke through 4 consecutive catastrophes. It's really, incredible. Musinlan sighed with emotion, and looked solemnly at the young man who was covered in bruises but still full of fighting spirit. My master, uncle is very proud of you. I believe your master, if he sees your feat today, he will also be happy for you. Master. Hearing the other party mention his master, the young man's heroic and resolute face became a little sentimental. He lowered his head and said with red eyes, Master, is it really possible for her to come back? You really want her back? Musinlan asked. Of course. I think about it all the time. Qingling's long-cherished wish for the rest of her life is to reunite with her. The young man spoke word by word. You have a heart, boy, it's not in vain that woman is attracted to you. Cough cough. Muse Inland sighed softly, lowered her head, remained silent for a long time, and then asked in a very low voice, then what if I disappear? Will you come to your uncle? Ah! As if he didn't expect the other party to ask this question, the young man was slightly taken aback. No, I'm joking with you, you pretend I didn't ask. Muse Inland hurriedly said something, then bowed her head and fell silent. However, the young man was keenly aware of the change in the other party, and said, Master, after getting along with you through hardships these past few days, especially after you taught me your skills, Qing Ling suddenly felt that the feeling in his heart towards you had changed. A lot. Oh. Muse Inland raised her head and asked, explain in detail. Hey, I can't tell you the specific, Qing Ling, I just think. The young man thought for a while and said, Uncle Master no longer gives me such a strong sense of oppression as when we first met, and sometimes there is even some. What else? Muse Inland's beautiful eyes flashed, and she blurted out. As soon as the words came out of her mouth, perhaps realizing that she had lost her composure, she hurriedly sat upright and said coldly, You might as well explain your words clearly, I hate people who speak ink the most in my life. Good. Bai Qingling smiled, and said with some embarrassment, Qingling thinks that Uncle Shi is kind of cute, really the kind that is rare. In short, aside from the aura of Taoist Suanv, you are really attractive. Strange woman. Wait. Muse Inland blushed, and spread her palms, what did you say just now? You said I'm cute. Yes. Bai Qingling added, it's just for an occasional moment. Normally, Master Shi is still a tall, cold, and serious woman. Humph, it's fine if you slander me for being cute, what is an occasional moment? Is it possible that I will change my face? Muse Inland was extremely annoyed, and after feeling sullen for a while, she couldn't help but said, Hey, then I'll ask you. In your so-called occasional moment, as a woman, I and your master? Who is cuter? Huh? Ah. Hearing the high-ranking leader of the Taoist sect ask this question to his junior, the young man sighed 3 times, but he didn't know how to answer it. On the top of the mountain, under the moonlight, the two looked at each other, silently. Finally, Muse Inland broke the silence. It's really emotional. A month ago, I also met you here for the first time. At that time, you hid under the cliff and followed my magic sword, but you still refused to admit it. I was very angry at that time, and I just wanted to kill you. The little thief's body was broken into thousands of pieces, but I didn't expect that today the two of us would join hands to overcome the catastrophe. Yeah, life is always full of surprises. Bai Qingling smiled wryly and said, Qingling never thought that on the way to escape, I would meet a master who really treats me, and... Speaking of this, he looked deeply at a stunning beauty who was very similar to his master in front of him. Master, can we stop fighting after 100 years? Or... Just think about it, learn from each other, and show it to the world. Impossible. Mentioning this matter, Muse Inland closed her eyes, and her face regained her solemn expression. You are the devil lord destined by nature, and I am the saint who will help the righteous way. You and I are destined to be incompatible. Well, that's really sad. Bai Qingling smiled wryly and said nothing more. The two continued to be silent. It's just that the previously rare and harmonious atmosphere has become heavy. Okay. Now that we're in dire straits, let's get down to business. Muse Inland cleared her throat, and said, Qingling, listen, it will take at least 3 days for Master Uncle to go back to his previous life and purify the goo poison. What comes down is the 3 kalpas of wind, fire, and water. Can you really stand it? She looked at the boy worriedly with her beautiful eyes. If you can't stand it, you have to stand it. The young man said with determination, I, Bai Qingling, still have too many things to do in this life. I am not willing to fall into the hands of that dwarf ahead of time. Absolutely not allowed. Looking at the young man's fearless appearance, Muse Inland's already dignified eyes were even more flushed. She stared blankly at the other party for a long time, and said in the most gentle tone of her life, "Qingling, come here, get closer to the uncle, and the uncle will help you look at the injury." Good. Without the previous guarded doubts, the boy followed the words and came to the side of the woman in white. Examining the wound on the young man's body that was pierced by the killing and robbery formation, Muse Inland looked pained, bit her lip, and sighed, "If you didn't have the regeneration power of the innate formless demon body, I'm afraid you would have been injured to such a degree. Immortals cannot be saved. Hey, if that woman Musinian sees you hurt like this, I don't know how much she will feel distressed." "It's my fault," she said quietly, with tears welling up in her eyes. "It's okay, uncle." But the young man looked calm. "Qingling said that what doesn't kill me will only make me stronger. The next killing and robbery, I, Bai Qingling, will forcefully escape one by one. No, the risk is too great. The remaining 4 calamities, you have almost no hope of defeating them all. That's all." As if she had made up her mind, Muse Inland said with sad and firm eyes, "I have sworn to my sister that I will save you from Danghun Mountain at all costs. If you die in the next calamity, I will. What's the point of going out alone? So, next, you don't move here, and leave everything to me." "No. Uncle, we will definitely do it." As if anticipating the other party's intentions, the young man looked excited and wanted to say something, but was interrupted by the other party again. "Bai Qingling, you don't need to say too much, just listen to me," Muse Inland said with a serious face. "My current Deo Mark reincarnation is only halfway through. That is, at least half of the love flower goo remains in this seed. But this seed has decided to fight to the death. To be honest, I'm not sure, in this case, whether my physical strength is enough to support me and break through the formation barrier with all my strength. In other words, whether you and I can get out alive this time depends on tonight, and there is only half the probability." "Half probability," the boy's brows sank. "Yes," Muse Inland said, "if my power can't break through the formation barrier at once the power leaks halfway, it will definitely be backlashed by this power. At that time, the Demon Emperor and the masters around him will rush up, even if I am the number 1 in the righteous way. Even one person cannot escape death. And once I die, you will naturally die too." Speaking of this, her eyes became hot and shining, staring at the young man in front of her firmly. "Qingling, at this last moment, uncle just wants to hear the truth." Although she tried her best to adjust her emotions, her voice was not difficult to hear, a bit choked. "Today, I, Muse Inland, am willing to give you Bai Qingling, and we will go to this dead end hand in hand. If you can see a glimmer of life, you will be lucky. If you fail, you will die. I have no regrets either. How about you?" Bai Qingling pondered for a while, and finally lowered her head, as if she didn't dare to look directly into the other's fiery eyes. "Master, can we not gamble?" "No gambling," Muse Inland frowned. Bai Qingling said, "Uncle Master doesn't know something. Ever since you asked me to enlighten Master Xiayashi's claws, I, Bai Qingling, have made an oath that no matter what adversity I encounter, I will live on, and I will never gamble my life unless it is absolutely necessary." Bai Qingling said, "So, if it's true as my uncle said, there is only half the probability, then Qingling would rather believe that the sword in his hand can split the remaining 4 great calamities. What's more, Qingling has always believed that we can definitely come up with other methods." "Another way?" Muse Inland frowned, and said with a wry smile, "The so-called other way in your mouth. Your master Musinian has already tested you, and you ruthlessly rejected her, didn't you?" Ah! The young man let out a soft moan, and then suddenly thought of something. His cheeks turned red. Shua, master, she was really willing that day. Yes. Muse Inland gritted her teeth and said, it's all at this juncture. It just so happens that the woman is not here. This seat simply opened the conversation. She, Muse Inyan, does have feelings other than master and apprentice. Hearing this, the young man's body shook, and he leaned against the stone stack beside him, not saying a word for a long time. Okay, Bai Qingling, you little heartbreaker, I won't waste any more time with you. Muse Inland narrowed her eyes, and said in a cold tone, I'm asking you one last time. Are you willing to give up life and death and fight this round with me? I don't want to. Bai Qingling shook her head and said, as Qingling said before, I still have too many things to do. I'm not reconciled, I don't accept my fate, and I don't gamble. Snort. Muse Inland's expression was a bit sullen, and she interrupted directly, you kid, you say so much because you are afraid of death, aren't you? I have the destiny to save the world, and I have great wishes, and I am willing to fight this last game with you. Even if we go to Huanquan together, I will admit it. You still don't want to, do you? Perhaps it was the deep desperation, the depression in her heart. The more she talked, the more angry she was, and she gave it all up. You know, if I am trapped here alone, whatever formation the demon emperor activates to kill and rob, I can't do anything to him. So what about the poison in the body? After 10 days and a half months of slow rest, I will completely refine the poison, and then I will be able to break through the formation wall and escape without any risk. The reason why I can only give it a go now is not because of you little devil and burden. You know. The boy listened quietly. There was a wry smile on the corner of his mouth. It turns out that even after these few days of getting along, in the eyes of my uncle, I am still that little devil after all, right? Seeing the young man's dejected look, Muse Inland's expression froze, and her tone was a bit gentle. I was just getting angry, so. Why apologize, Senior Saintess? The young Qingmo Zhenling said faintly, I am willing, tonight let's give it a go. Okay. I really didn't misread you. Muse Inland nodded, Qingling, my Daomark reincarnation Dafa is still short of the last week of operation, please protect me for the last hour. Yes. The picture changes in a hurry. Back to the tragic scene that was originally frozen. The young Mojun held a magic sword, and pierced his uncle's back with the sword. Da-da-da. Blood trickled down the blade all the way. At this moment, the audience was suffocated again. Accompanied by this powerful visual impact picture, there is also the weeping sound of that magic sword. Why? In the picture, the Taoist Suan turned her pale cheeks, and her pair of magnificent fairy pupils were filled with complex emotions such as despair, resentment, bewilderment, and regret. Didn't you say so? Qingling is a demon. The devil, in order to survive, is omnipotent. The young man said with cold eyes, straightened his long sword, and pushed the sword edge out of the saint's abdomen even more forcefully. The whole process. Cruel. Ruthless. Absolutely. He did it to perfection. As expected of a devil. From the beginning to the end, he was the unfeeling and righteous demon supreme. Just when everyone outside the court was exclaiming, shocked and unacceptable. On screen. The boy once again made an unexpected act against the sky. I love the demon lord, my female disciples are all sick and delicate. Author, Ji Shi Shui Bao. Chapter 159. Under the gaze of tens of thousands of demon cultivators outside the field. In the memory screen, the young demon king holding the bloody demon sword leaned down and checked the Taoist Suan's aura. At this time, the latter was forcibly broken by the sword and was already dying. Bai Qingling, why? Muse Inlan looked at the young man behind her sadly, the expression on her face was full of confusion, resentment, and regret. I shouldn't believe you. A demon is a demon after all. How can one be kind-hearted because others are kind to him? I have made a mistake. That woman Musinian is even more stupid. She deserves to be driven away from her soul. She used her last strength and screamed hysterically. However, the young demon lord beside him still had an expressionless face, like a cold god of death. Now that I know, it's not too late. Uncle Master, do you know? You were wrong. You told me that you, who was running the Daohen reincarnation technique, had no resistance at all and boldly handed over the rear to me. That's when I knew. This may be the only chance for me, Bai Qingling, to kill you in this life. I'm sorry, Uncle Master, Qingling has fulfilled the 100-year war agreement in sealing Soul Valley in advance here. In the way of a man in the devil's way. The young man said with an indifferent expression, holding the magic sword backwards and pouring his true power. Choke. Another sword pierced the abdomen of the Taoist Suanv without sparing any effort. Boom. The body-protecting jade pot on Muzinlan's waist burst into pieces, and the frail immortal body in the process of reincarnation completely lost its last barrier. As a cloud of bright red blood splashed out, it filled the sky. Her beautiful eyes closed heavily, and her body fell heavily to the ground, motionless again. I wonder if it was the sword spirit of the magic sword who was also shocked by this scene. There was a distorted jitter in the memory screen. The tone becomes dark, sad, and gloomy. Above the sky, there was a faint sound of wailing that seemed human and inhuman. At the same time, the entire Hehuan sect Holy Mountain, and the thousands of demon cultivators who were watching this memory replay, all lamented. Wow, wow, I didn't expect that after chasing each other sincerely for so long, it would end like this. I'm so heartbroken. Actually, it's expected if you think about it carefully. As the demon lord himself said, he was born to be the most powerful demon. So, there is no problem in doing this. Yes. A Taoist prodigy and a demon supreme, these two people were destined to end like this from the moment they met. As for everything else, it is just our willingness. This is reality, not a drama. Hey, having said that, I still hope that Demon Lord will do this. What are the reasons for this? This matter can't be that simple. That girl Ranjit was sincere to the Demon Lord, and the Demon Lord immediately repaid her with her life. Sister Muzinlan was so kind to him. It will never end like this. Demon Lord, please wake up. The character of great love Immortal Lord cannot be destroyed. At the same time, the VIP lobby center on the first floor. The noble and beautiful Empress Yin also had slightly clustered eyebrows and a look of sadness on her face. Master, what do you think is Senior Brother Qingling's true intention? He is definitely not an ungrateful person. You should also know that, right? Hua Yuerong's pair of beautiful peach blossom eyes were filled with sadness and fascination, and she weakly asked her master. Hey, this is not even a teacher. Xiao Qingmei was about to say something, but when she saw her disciple's sad eyes, she couldn't bear it. Well, if you ask about this, I can really find someone to help you answer it. Sect Master Ji. She shouted behind her. The Ying Queen. The villain is here. Because she was suppressed by the Ying Queen throughout the whole process and unable to move, Ji Taimei spent a lot of effort to stand up and said, My Majesty, what are your orders? Tell me, that day, by Qingling and Muzinyan. No, Muzinlan, how did it end? Xiao Qingmei asked coldly. Hua Yuerong also said coldly, Sect Leader Ji, now that the evidence of your collaborating with the enemy has fallen into the hands of my master, I hope you can tell the truth and don't slander my senior brother Qingling. Okay. Okay. Ji Taimei gritted her teeth and said, that day, Bai Qingling surrendered. Surrender? Xiao Qingmei and Hua Yuerong looked at each other in shock. That's right. Bai Qingling went down the mountain alone to surrender to the demon emperor, and secretly spied with him for a long time. Finally, at the suggestion of the mysterious old man, His Majesty the demon emperor withdrew from the demon emperor's palace. Real or fake? Xiao Qingmei frowned slightly. With His Majesty's temperament, he would easily let go of the Taoist Xianzang who tried to kill him again and again. Didn't he go up the mountain to search for Mu Xinlan's body? Yes. And Hua Yuerong on the side also added, what exactly is my senior brother Qingling spying on with the demon emperor? Do you know the identity of the mysterious old man? This. Under the majestic gazes of the two masters and disciples, the always majestic leader of the Hehuan sect said with a bitter look on his face, I can't even compare to this. Xiangji Palace, the highest floor, contains the sword room. Bang bang bang. There was a knocking on the door. Immediately afterwards, a timid female voice came, Master, are you okay in there? Senior wants to see you. Senior, it's okay to be a teacher. You and your senior sister can continue to guard Lin Xianxian outside. Bai Feng responded lightly, and deliberately made his tone somewhat gentle. He knew it in his heart. After the memory was exposed to this point, the little disciple who was thinking about him was wondering how worried he was. Bai Qingling, shouldn't you say a few words to me? There was a burst of resentment in the airs, with a slightly choked female voice. Bai Feng looked sideways and saw the previously cold and indifferent Taoist Suanu biting her red lips with a sad look on her face. It can be seen that even though 100 years have passed, there is still a lingering sadness hidden deep in her eyes. Unnecessary. Bai Feng lowered his eyes and said, believe me, what you want to hear right now, the apology from my mouth, will be said uncontrollably from your mouth later. So, keep reading, my dear. Uncle Master. Maybe it's the complete fusion of memories, or maybe it's reliving this long-lost memory with the heroine in my memory. Bai Feng also had mixed feelings at this moment. When he said the last Uncle Master that had not been heard for 100 years, his voice was also trembling. Well, now that you've seen this, I'm here to see the truth you told me. I want to see if this so-called truth can reduce our sister's murderous intention towards you, even by a factor or two. Mu Xinlan closed her eyes, adjusted deeply, and then looked at the scene in the sky again. Look. The memory screen is moving again. I'll go. What does the demon lord want to do? He is holding Mu Xinlan's body. He walked into the dormitory inside. Don't talk nonsense, what a corpse. Mu Xinlan is still alive and well. They are still going to conquer our eastern land. Hey, let's put it this way, there is a turning point. Sure enough, there is a turning point. Everyone screamed in surprise. The young man in the picture has already carried the Taoist Suanu, whose abdomen was bleeding profusely, into an ice coffin made of xianbing in the corner. After carefully placing Mu Xinlan in the ice coffin, the next moment, the young man pulled out the magic sword again, aimed at his heart, and stabbed back with the sword. Laugh. Purple-black pure demonic blood surged out along the sword body. However, the young man's face was dull, without any change. He approached the ice coffin, raised his palm, and let the demon blood from his wrist flow into Mu Xinlan's abdominal wound with perfect accuracy. Next moment, a magical scene happened. I saw that the blood hole in Mu Xinlan's abdomen was healing at a speed visible to the naked eye, and new flesh was growing. Even the blood that flowed out, because it was mixed with the demon blood, glowed with some kind of spirituality, and got back into her body obediently. Soon, under the stunned gaze of everyone outside the venue, the pale and beautiful cheeks of the mysterious girl from the sect glowed with rosy color. Her withered white hair, which looked like an old woman's and had lost its aura and moisture, had also returned to its former lustrous hair. Back to life. Is this the demonic blood power of the demonic supreme physique, the formless demonic body? This is too heaven-defying. Seeing this incredible scene, everyone could no longer remain calm and exclaimed. But in front of everyone, the question that followed was, why does the young demon king in the picture do what he does? Kill her and save her? Just when everyone was stunned and confused. In the screen, perhaps due to excessive blood loss, the young man's already pale face became even paler. He bowed tremblingly and stared at the woman who had regained life in the ice coffin. Master, Qingling's 5 internal organs and second life are all given by you. Now, Qingling will give you the purest demon blood in Yumu's heart. After you wake up again, not only will you not be in any serious trouble, your body, which has gone through 9 lifetimes, has accumulated deep scars and is on the verge of collapse, will be completely repaired and become even stronger. In this way, when Qingling becomes an immortal in the future and goes to the underworld of death to retrieve your soul, it will also ensure that this physical body has enough strength to support the soul's retrieval process. Yes, since you are no longer around, my disciple has become willful again. But I promise, this is the last time. With that said, the young man bowed down completely with great difficulty, his face pressed against Master Muzinyan's beautiful cheek. My master loves Qingling the most. Only at this time will this body look most like you. Speaking of this, perhaps there is some secret emotion in my heart that can no longer be suppressed. A blush appeared on the young man's pale handsome face. Immediately, he closed his eyes and kissed his master deeply on his red lips. Master, this is my disciple's response to what you asked me that day. Yes. My disciple now fully understands the great love you speak of. From today on, my disciple will no longer be confused. It doesn't matter whether it's wrong or master. You are all Qingling's wings. So far, the future demon lord Qingling has opened up a path called great love in his pursuit of immortality. I will kill every enemy who hates and frames me, and I will try to love everyone who treats me well. I, by Qingling, want to tell the world that even a demonic cultivator who is cruel and unscrupulous in the eyes of the world can still implement true great love. Speaking of this, the young demon king completely released all his emotions. Tears welled up like a fountain, and the crystal teardrops fell down into the ice coffin along the handsome face like a knife. See this incredible, yet touching reversal. Countless demon cultivators outside the field also followed the young man's emotions and shed tears. If I remember correctly, this is the 3rd time that I have shed tears since my mother passed away and I said goodbye to Ranjit, isn't it? I'm such a strong body training man, I can't hold it anymore. I knew it. I knew there was a reversal. The character of the demon lord has not collapsed. Combined with the memory of the flame demon tower, the demon lord is like this to his brothers and Ranjit. He is also like this to the master who loves him the most. He is the real immortal lord of great love. It turns out that from this moment on, the gears of fate have turned. Demon Lord Qingling has completely embarked on the path called great love. Everyone stand up. Pay tribute to me, the greatest lover of demons in the East. Just as the whole audience burst into tears, someone raised a question. That's not right. There is one more thing that I don't quite understand. Is it unfair to Muzinlan that the demon lord did this? Also, now that he knocked out Muzinlan, how did he escape from the demon emperor's clutches? Woolen cloth. As soon as these words came out, everyone immediately calmed down and expressed their speculations one after another. Indeed. Now the demon king is surrounding the mountain with heavy troops, and the 4th killing array catastrophe of the 7 ultimate slaying immortal formation is about to come. How did the young demon lord in the picture, who had just entered Taoism, survive with the unconscious Muzinlan? With this in mind, everyone calmed down and focused their eyes on the frozen memory picture in the sky again. At this moment, the young demon king had already used his magic sword to cut a big hole in the ground, and then, using all his strength, he pushed the sleeping Muzinlan in with both his body and the coffin. At the same time, in the VIP lobby on the first floor, Xiao Qingmei, whose eyes were red, met the tearful eyes of her disciple Hua Yuerong and choked with sobs. Yuerong, stop talking. There is no need to say anything. The world's useless speculations look so trivial and ridiculous under his actions. Xiao Qingling, this kid is really. She stretched out her slender and long arms, took her disciple into her arms, hugged him tightly, and burst into tears. This moment, a somewhat ridiculous and shameful thought flashed through her mind. Next time. If there is a next time. When that young man communicates with her as an elder, no matter how willful he is in her face, it doesn't mean that he can't be pampered by her. The palace with 4 elephants and the dome. The field of vision passed through Sen Xing'er and He Feng Lixiu, who were crying bitterly. Behind the door of the sword room, 2 figures, one virtual and one real, sit opposite each other. At this moment, the Taoist Suan no longer had the murderous aura she had before. When she saw her covering her face with her hands, illusory tears continued to flow from her eyes, showing the appearance of a weak woman. Bai Qingling, you. Even if you are worthy of that woman, can you be worthy of me? At least from my point of view. You are still an out-and-out heartless scum, little white-eyed wolf. Mu Xinlan asked with blood-red eyes. At this moment, she no longer cared about the identity of the leader of the Taoist sect, with a look of resentment and sorrow on her face, just like a woman who had been let down, questioning her lover. Why? Bai Feng sighed softly and said, Saint Mu, did I just tell you that you must hold back your emotions? Ah! As if she didn't know why the other party suddenly mentioned this, Mu Xinlan was stunned for a second, then frowned and said, You kid. Stop talking about him. Is this important? Of course it's important. Bai Feng shook his head and said with a sad look on his face, because the final truth that is about to come will make you cry even more miserably. Mu Xinlan. End of chapter. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I love the Demon Lord, my female disciples are all sick and delicate. Author, Zhi Shi Shui Bao. Chapter 160. Accompanied by the sound of sighing and sighing outside the court. The demon's memory also seemed to be coming to an end. In the gloomy picture, the young Mozhen Qingling slowly pushed the ice coffin into the huge earth pit in front of him. He held up the magic sword, and there was a look of sadness on his indifferent and ruthless handsome face. Finally, let's say goodbye to you too, uncle. Sorry, in the end, Qingling still betrayed you. No way, Qingling doesn't want to gamble. In order to save Master back, I want to survive this disaster without risk. As for you, don't worry, my devil blood can not only heal the sword wound on your abdomen, but also cover your breath. Thus, after I bury you, it will be difficult for the demon emperor to find you. Of course, Qingling also knows that when you wake up, you will hate me to the bone, but that doesn't matter. Because that's exactly what Qingling is after. After Qingling finds Master's soul, I will not have any obsessions. At that time, I will calmly rush to your century-old war agreement, so that you can kill me without any scruples, and fulfill your long-cherished wish. This is Qingling's reward for taking care of my uncle during this time. Father said that the Bai family must pay all debts. At the end, as if he had made up his mind, the boy suddenly closed his eyes and swung his sword. Laugh. The terrifying and sharp purple sword light pierced through the rock formation above. After a loud rumbling sound, the ice coffin was completely buried by the boulder pile. Seeing this last scene, everyone was completely shocked. Encountered so many catastrophes, he is still the boy he was back then. Anyone who has a grudge must be repaid, and any kindness must be repaid. He is the true great love demon lord. Where did the demon lord go? I really want to join the Kangming sect and become a disciple of the demon lord. When everyone was moved and wept. But the memory picture changed rapidly. The young man actually went down the mountain with the magic sword on his back, and came to the front of the dwarf demon emperor wearing a gorgeous and complicated brocade robe. At the same time, Klalala. In the depths of the dense forest, the sound of uniform footsteps sounded. The guards of the demon palace who had been lying in wait for a long time at the foot of the mountain rushed up and surrounded the boy tightly. Demon Emperor Jongbila walked up, raised his head, looked at the young man coldly, and snorted heavily, "Boy, aren't you that Muzinlan's disciple? Why, you came down the mountain to surrender on behalf of your master?" "No." The young man shook his head, looking coldly at the ruler of Dongtu in front of him. "This time I am following my last wish and surrendering to His Majesty the Demon Emperor." After hearing this, it's not just the people in the demon palace in the picture who are shocked. Everyone outside the arena is also puzzled. However, after experiencing so many things, everyone has been able to fully determine a fact. That is the young demon lord. The reason why he expressed his surrender to the demon emperor has another meaning. All of a sudden, everyone sat upright, afraid of revealing any details. "Surrender?" Demon Emperor Jongbila said with a smile that was not a smile. "Didn't you fight against your master a few days ago? Why did you suddenly figure it out now?" "No." The young man shook his head, and said calmly, "From the beginning to the end, I don't think that I can escape the heaven and earth net set by His Majesty the Demon Emperor. The one who is obsessed with obsession is my master Muzinlan, not me." "So what?" The Demon Emperor's big, ferocious mouth raised slightly. "You are going down the mountain to accept the surrender, because you want the Emperor to let you go?" "Yes." The teenager nodded. "I see." The Demon Emperor said with a sinister smile, "Child, you and your master have been trapped on the top of the mountain these days, not only using up half of my ancestral 7 immortal slaying formation, but also killing and wounding many warriors in my demon palace. What do you think, will the Emperor let you go?" At the end, the smile on his face disappeared suddenly, and the long and narrow eyes were full of murderous intent. However, the boy's expression is still indifferent. "Your Majesty the Demon Emperor, of course not. But if I bring some greetings, His Majesty might be able to show mercy." "Oh." Hearing this, Jongbila was taken aback for a moment, then raised his eyebrows and said, "What gift? Show it." "This." The boy held the hilt of the sword at his waist, and with a choke, he pulled out the magic sword straight away. "Protect His Majesty the Demon Emperor." The guards of the demon palace changed their expressions and surrounded them one after another. In an instant, countless strange weapons and knives were raised and placed on the young man's neck. "A bunch of idiots. Let me step down. He's just a brat. Can he kill me? Can he?" The demon emperor jumped into a rage and shouted back his subordinates. Then, he walked over with a gloomy face, stretched out a rough and short palm, grabbed the blade of the magic sword in the young man's hand, and pulled it out completely. With the blade completely out of the scabbard. Only then did everyone see it. The azure blue blade surface filled with demonic energy was actually stained with undried blood. "This is..." Jongbila narrowed his eyes and stared for a while, then his eyes suddenly became hot and crazy, and he screamed, "The blood of that mysterious girl! It's her breath! The Emperor's nose can't be wrong! Hear, hear!" The surrounding demon palace guards were also rejoicing, stepping forward one after another to echo and flatter. "As His Majesty sees it," the young man said calmly, "the woman who stabbed you many times, my master, Muzinlan, has already been killed by me. Real or fake?" The demon emperor flicked the blade of the sword, and said with a sneer, I'm afraid this is a play deliberately staged by you master and apprentice. As for whether it is a trick of bitter meat or a trick of getting rid of the shell, I have to guess again, ha 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 ha. Your Majesty is really worried. The young man's face finally became a little moved, and he said excitedly, because I know that in this eastern land, no one can escape the control of His Majesty the Demon Emperor, so I have repeatedly persuaded Master to submit to you, but she is not only stubborn, and insisted that I accompany him to die together. Of course I don't want to. I, Bai Qingling, have good aptitude and a bright future. I am destined to achieve something in this life. How can I die so young? So, I pretended to agree to Master, and then took advantage of her skill to transform poison, secretly attacked and successfully got rid of her. So far, Bai Qingling doesn't have any worries. He only hopes to join the Demon Palace and serve His Majesty the Demon Emperor. Boy, what you said is really good. I am fascinated by what I heard. The corner of the Demon Emperor's mouth once again showed a yin and yang smile. However, whether this Muzinlin is dead or not is up to you to say. In a word, if you live to see people, if you die, you must see corpses. This emperor will never allow this mysterious girl from the sect to leave this Danghun mountain. Perhaps it is unnecessary, Your Majesty. The young man lowered his head and said quietly, after I seriously injured Master, the poison of love goo in her body could no longer be suppressed, it exploded completely, her posture became extremely weird, and she even wanted to kill me. He didn't finish talking. The Demon Emperor's guards headed by Ji Taimei laughed maliciously. Demon Emperor Zhongbaili had a serious face, narrowed his eyes and said, "Go ahead." "Good." Bai Qingling continued, after the master hugged me inexplicably, she regained consciousness for a short time. She was completely unwilling to face the embarrassing self after the outbreak of love goo, so after berating me, she released the blood in her body. After 9 tribulations, Yin devoured the fire and burned himself to death, his spirit and soul were all gone. Speaking of this, he sighed, with a melancholy expression visible to the naked eye. "Brat, you fart." A young boy's voice sounded a bit coquettish. A boy with a middle part, heavy makeup and a black and white ghost robe walked into the center of the screen. "See here." All the devil cultivators outside the field suddenly let out a cry of surprise. I saw that this person was none other than the current suzerain of the Hehuan sect, the former chief holy son, Ji Taimei. If you want to see people, if you want to see people, if you want to see dead bodies. You kid said that Muzinlin died when she died? What if you two, master and apprentice, work together to play a show and deceive His Majesty? Ji Taimei puffed out her chest, and looked at the boy who was not a few years younger than herself with a ferocious expression. However, the other party was staring at the void the whole time, completely treating him as if he didn't exist. Ji Taimei looked anxious, with her hands on her hips, and was about to reprimand again. Suddenly, snapped. A slap from the side spared no effort. The terrifying physical strength directly hit the holy son of the Hehuan sect, his feet were off the ground, and he flew out like a kite with a broken thread. It was His Majesty the Pocket Demon Emperor who made the move. Ji Taimei struggled to support her body, looked back at the other party, with resentment on her face. "Your Majesty, you beat me? You beat Xiaomei for a wild boy." The Emperor didn't speak. "What's your attitude?" "Huh. Let others know, and they thought you were the Devil Emperor." "Damn." Demon Emperor Zhongbaili spat viciously, and then came to the young Qingling Mojun again. "Well, boy, I believe you to a certain extent in this story. This emperor knows that arrogant Taoist saint too well. With her character, if she is hit by the love flower goo, she will definitely not go to a man's double cultivation to relieve the goo, but will hide and try to practice slowly. Transform goo poison. Therefore, it is not impossible for such a proud woman to break down emotionally and commit suicide when the emotion goo in her body bursts out and she shows an obsessive attitude in front of my apprentice. But, speaking of this, the demon emperor changed the subject, and those narrow and dark eyes suddenly became more terrifying. This does not mean that the emperor believes in your words. On the contrary. Because the blood on your sword belongs to Muzinlan himself, even if your surrender this time is a play of collusion with Muzinlan, the emperor is still extremely pleased. Her body was already weakened by the poisonous goo poison, and now she was severely injured by a sword. Her hope of escaping from Danghun Mountain will only become smaller and smaller. Ha 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 ha. In the end, the short Dongtu emperor, ignoring his image, twisted his hips crazily and danced a weird dance. The guards of the demon palace on the side also shouted wisely. Okay, okay. The demon emperor waved his hand. It's almost time. You go to the mountain to search for Muzinlan immediately. See if what this kid said is true. Who wants to lead the team? This emperor will reward you a lot. He looked coldly at the powerful forbidden army in the demon palace. This. Perhaps because they were afraid of the remaining prestige of the mysterious girl of the Taoist sect, everyone took a step back one after another. A bunch of wine bags and rice bags. Seeing this, the demon emperor was furious, and coldly pointed at the male pet beside him. Xiaomei. You lead the team up the mountain. If you find Muzinlan who has been seriously injured, just kill her with a sword. Ji Taimei's face, which was already covered in makeup, turned as pale as death. Your Majesty, this is inevitable. In the end, under the persecution of the demon emperor's eyes, the holy son of Hehuanzong nodded heavily, led the team, and rushed up the mountain quickly. Throughout the whole process, the young demon venerable kept his head down, his eyes calm. I don't know how long it has passed. When Ji Taimei appeared on the screen again, he had already brought a piece of news that made everyone in the demon palace ecstatic. Report to your Majesty. Xiaomei led 3,000 demon cultivators to search the entire Danghun Mountain, including the caves of the master and apprentice, and found no sign of Muzinlan. Moreover, there is no barrier on the border of the Seven Immortal Slayer formation, a sliver of damage. It just goes to show. Speaking of this, he looked at the young man with calm eyes beside him. It's really as this kid said. That woman Muzinlan burned herself to death. Ah, that's it? Demon Emperor Zhongbaile was stunned for a few seconds, and then a burst of extreme ecstasy quickly appeared on his face. Ha 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 ha. I really didn't expect that the dignified leader of the righteous way, the mysterious girl from the sky, was forced to burn herself to death by the poison of love goo used by the emperor. I originally planned to go to your apprentice, Shuangziu, when Muzinlan's poison came out. In this way, even if you dispelled the poison and broke through the formation, I can still get rid of this matter, announce it to the world, and you will lose all face. However, I didn't expect you, a saint, to be so brainy. Are you unwilling to make good use of such a strong and heroic disciple? Funny. It's so funny. Like the final big winner, the demon emperor spread his arms and laughed loudly. The sharp and piercing laughter shook the valley. Your Majesty, now, can you prove your sincerity in submitting to your Majesty? Bai Qingling asked calmly. No, not enough. The demon emperor Zhongbaile looked at the young man slyly. You want to earn a living in the hands of the emperor, don't you? Yes, can you live? The young man also frowned, looking solemnly. I'm afraid I won't survive. The lord of the eastern land shook his head. Why? In order to surrender to you, I did not hesitate to kill my teacher. Isn't that enough? The boy gritted his teeth. You kid is born rebellious. If you can kill your master today, you can kill your master tomorrow. How can the emperor tolerate you? A smile appeared on the corner of the devil's mouth, but there was a murderous intent in his eyes. Come here, take this kid down and send him to reunite with Muzinlan. Unfortunately, Your Majesty, it seems that you alone don't count. Oh. Jongbila narrowed his eyes. Boy, is it interesting to talk nonsense when you are about to die. Sorry, Your Majesty, the reason why I am willing to surrender is not out of trust in you. You know, I, Bai Qingling, are rarely willing to gamble with my life on an uncertain future. As the young demon venerable spoke, an inexplicable smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. Senior, are you still unwilling to show up? You gave Qingling the Guzun treasure earlier, just to see me fall here, is it? As soon as the boy said this, everyone present, including the demon emperor Jongbila himself, was shocked and followed the young man's gaze. Why? A sigh of vicissitudes came from the end of the picture. Immediately afterwards, an old man with a whisk in his hand, wearing a blue Taoist robe, elegant and thin, with a fairy-like demeanor, slowly emerged from the void and manifested his real body. Damn it! It's really the mysterious old man who helped Mojun slaughter the master. He hasn't left yet. Outside the arena, countless people shouted loudly. On the top floor of Sixyangji Palace, there is a sword room. Maybe it's because I watched this movie for too long. Baifeng stood up slowly, stretched his waist, and after a lot of exercise, he looked at his lifelong enemy in front of him, covering his face and sobbing. Okay, Mu Sheng, let me call you uncle, uncle, now that you know everything, make a choice. Show the sword here with the deity, or Bai Qingling. You bastard. Mu Xinlan's eyes were wet and red, and she stared at the tall phantom in front of her with resentment. Why did you not discuss it with me at the beginning? Also, you didn't use all your strength in the battle of Sealing Demon Valley. Did you want to ask for death? Regarding this question, the first answer that comes to my mind may be the truth. Okay, Master Uncle, instead of getting entangled in these meaningless trivial matters, now that you and I meet again, what happened without real swords and guns, I'm afraid it's hard to explain to the world. Baifeng said with deep eyes, stepped up through the air, and came to the sword tripod on the dome. With one hand he squeezed the death cicada tightly, and with the other hand he reached for the magic sword hanging in the air, ready to take the sword and run away at any time. At this moment, a sobbing female voice came from behind. No, do not want. Ah! Baifeng was taken aback for a moment, then looked back at the Taoist Suanv, whose face was full of tears, and her emotions were overwhelmed. What's the matter, uncle? Are you addicted to watching? Mu Xinlan bit her lip, hesitated for a while, and said with a blushing face, if you come, you will be safe. This seat wants to read this memory. Look at how you, an arrogant boy, finally escaped from the devil. Escaped from the hands of the emperor. How did he go to the realm of death in the underworld, and get back his sister's soul? And she lowered her head, and her tone became a bit coquettish. You little white-eyed wolf, have you really not felt any guilt towards me in those 100 years? What you want to ask most is probably the last point. Baifeng chuckled lightly and said, have you forgotten, in this memory scene, the deity once realized one thing, the real great love is never only given to one person. What do you mean by that? After hearing this, Mu Xinlan's cheeks flushed slightly, and there was a trace of girlish throbbing and panic in those domineering eyes of Samsara. Under the expectant eyes of the other party. But Baifeng shook his head. Don't get me wrong, in the past, Bai Qingling's heart was always the master, and it was none of your business, but now. Sorry, my wife is here. No, she is still someone else's wife for the time being. After finishing speaking, completely ignoring the stunned Taoist Suanv in front of him, Baifeng came to the window, released his divine sense, and searched downwards. It was a clear glimpse of two familiar figures. It was Mrs. Renhan Jiniang and the cute and sensible goddaughter Yehong Ai who possessed the double heaven of ice and fire, honey snow and ice sugar. Figured out what was going on. It is also time. A new chapter in Bai Feng's life has begun. I love the Demon Lord, my female disciples are all sick and delicate. Author, Zhi Shi Shui Bao. Chapter 161. It is finally over. In the last chapter, some book friends scolded me and said that I was a headline grabber. In fact, it was not true. It was really over. What should be said, the attractive plot, has been said. After explaining the grievances between Bai Qingling and the biggest boss Mu Xinlin, as well as the truth about the battle in the Valley of the Sealed Souls, and winning the hearts of all the heroines who appeared, this book should indeed end. I feel guilty for writing one more chapter. Yes, since I entered the memory chapter this month, although I haven't lost my follow-up subscription, every time I write a chapter, some people scold me. But the day before yesterday, I couldn't help but delete a bad comment saying that I exchanged horses for money. This is too much. To be honest, this book is now 6,000 average, with 1,300 follow-up subscriptions. Although it is considered rubbish in Snow Leopard's career, if it is placed in the hands of many authors, it will be forever, and it will go bankrupt at the beginning, and it will not care about your comments. What, after all, there is enough bad money. But Snow Leopard can't do it. Moreover, I use practical actions to fight back against some readers who say that I am ugly. I will not write even one more chapter just for money. In fact, everyone should also be able to feel that after so many days of interruption this month and the same amount of updates every day, Snow Leopard has no creative energy at all. I am an author who likes to watch readers interact very much. I play jokes and set up interesting jokes, including driving from time to time, all in order to see all kinds of interesting interactive comments from my brothers. But every day when I open the backend of the starting point, the screen is full of all kinds of comments scolding me. I think I will really be happy if I write it down. Snow Leopard's liver is not good. Anyway. As far as the plot of this book is concerned, basically everything that needs to be said has been covered, except for the ending. In the original plan, there was still a third volume, with a plot of almost 200,000 words, and another 1.5 months of writing, but now it can be regarded as cutting off this plot as a burden. Back to business. Tell me about the background of the story and Lan Yingxikuo about the protagonist's time travel. After reconciling with Mu Xinlin, the protagonist joins hands with Han Jiniang and Xiao Qingmei to destroy the Demon Emperor, and discovers the secret of the Demon Palace. It was caused by Li and Yu Suzi. And Bai Qingling is Bai Feng, and Bai Feng is Bai Qingling. Yes, they are the same person, and their personalities are actually the same at their core. There are no Turan, and several disciples are originally Bai Feng's disciples. Hua Yuerong and Han Jiniang are Bai Feng's destined confidant. This is why, in the early days of Bai Feng's time travel, he was able to open his mouth and come, CPU Senior and a few apprentices, because the lies he thought he made up were actually his own true thoughts. Even the game Xianlian does not exist at all, and the plot in Bai Feng's mind is transferred to Bai Feng, myself in the past timeline, by the future Bai Qingling through the 10-turn immortal Gu Time Golden Cicada. Through several memories, everyone can also see that Bai Qingling looks cold on the outside, but is a passionate, smoldering, person in his heart. In my memory, I used a lot of details about his relationship with Renjir and Mu Xinyan to pave the way for this point, but the brothers said they were all just water. Back to the topic. Why did Bai Qingling transform into Bai Feng and return to the original starting point? Because the Demon Lord doesn't understand love. Yes, because of her cold appearance and inability to express her love, after Bai Qingling accepted 3 disciples, in order to train them to become talents so that they can stand alone and not be bullied, she treated them even though she clearly loved them very much. All kinds of harsh training made the 3 disciples hate him. Bai Qingling knew this in his heart, but he was strong enough in his heart that he would rather bear all the infamy and hatred. All this changed 100 years later, on the day when Bai Qingling died in Fenghun Valley and had a decisive battle with her uncle Mu Xinlan. He saw the future through the eyes of reincarnation in Mu Xinlan's eyes. It turned out that Mu Xinlan wouldn't have the heart to kill him during the battle in Sealing Demon Valley, and the two would never see each other again. Later, when demons from outside the territory invaded, Bai Qingling wanted to help, but Mu Xinlan refused. Because Mu Xinlan hates Bai, and because she doesn't know Bai's memory, there is a misunderstanding about Bai. I don't know if you have any impression of this future. Mu Xinlan said many times in the early stage, the universe is extinguished, the entire Yunzhou continent is desolate, and only Bai Qingling and I are left. What Mu Xinlan described was the scene after the invasion of extraterrestrial demons. However, her strength was simply not enough to resist the invasion of demons from outside the territory, so all life in Yunzhou continent was devastated, and only 2 people survived. In the end, Mu Xinlan refused to ascend and died. After the protagonist, Bai Qingling, saw these futures, he found that there was only one way to change this ending. Therefore, Bai Qingling, who was confronting Mu Xinlan in the sealed Demon Valley, told her past self all this through the golden cicada of time. On the other hand, using the powerful method of mind travel, the soul of the body leaves the body and is reincarnated into the lower realm of the mortal world, the earth, to experience the emotions of the world and learn how to express love and what love is. And the so-called fairy love game does not exist at all. It is just a memory patch package that Bai Qingling made in advance for himself, who was reincarnated on Earth. After the patch package is completely read into the brain, his soul will be absorbed back to the Yunzhou continent. Anyway, this is it. In the past timeline, Bai Qingling went to the century-old agreement. During the decisive battle with Mu Xinlan in the Valley of Souls, after Mu Xinlan released the 9 nether yin devouring fire, she was deliberately burned, and kept the last breath of true energy, and shed through the 9 orifices. Ming Chen returned to the blood kitchen of the Kang Ming sect. After that, there was a scene of 3 disciples being stabbed in the back. This was also within Bai Qingling's arrangement. Because he wanted his own body on Earth to come and seize his body, so he deliberately let his beloved Singer kill him. Interested book lovers should be able to notice that at the beginning of the story, the author used the narration to express one thing more than once: this plot is completely plot-killing. Bai Qingling is so cunning, how could he die at the hands of a young disciple? Yes, he did it on purpose. He wants to create a new if-line for the plot after his death, so that he on Earth can know the development of the plot and seize the opportunity in advance. Readers who often watch parallel world film and television works here should be able to understand. As for Xiao Chen and Lin Mo, they are indeed people with great luck. After Bai Qingling became a demon master, he became stronger at all costs because he wanted to enter the underworld and regain his master's soul. In the process, he had no choice but to kill many innocent people and steal a lot of souls and luck to strengthen himself in a short period of time. As for Xiao Chen and Lin Mo, they were the 2 arrogances of luck who he had his eye on. He used the stealing shadow G beat of the pseudo-celestial level to monitor their every move from childhood to adulthood. This is also why, in the so-called immortal love game, the protagonist knows everything they have experienced from the perspective of Lin Mo and Xiao Chen. As for the so-called great love system, it was also created by Bai Qingling after realizing the great love that Master Mu Xinyan said. The treasures in it, all kinds of immortal goo, are all his own private collections. In short, Bai Qingling's purpose in this life is to boldly love everyone around her, and then wrap them with great love to influence them, so as to join hands with them to fight against the Demon Emperor and the extraterrestrial demons, and usher in a harmonious and happy ending. This is probably the plot, and there must be a lot of details that need to be filled in, but there is nothing Snow Leopard can do. I think this story is logically self-consistent, and it took a lot of energy from me, but everyone is obviously paying more attention to Cece and the extras. In short, what runs through the whole story is the great love in Bai Qingling's heart, which can be regarded as complementing the title of the book. In fact, in the final analysis, the plot after the demonic conference is just a continuous GHS, and then heading to the final happy ending with the harem group. The memory scene was scolded so miserably, and Snow Leopard will probably be scolded even more when he writes the rest of the plot. Snow Leopard said, "If I want to make bad money, I won't read the comments, write about having sex with 3 disciples every day, kill the demon emperor, and then change to a high-level map. The water will be endless, 2 million, 3 million words, all can." But I never thought about it that way. Some book friends have accused snow leopards of being unsightly when they eat, which is completely untrue. That's about it. I originally planned to give everyone the ending on October 1st, but I didn't expect that after exposing this memory section, Snow Leopard was indeed exhausted mentally and physically and was unable to continue. Everyone wants to scold whatever you want. I won't be on this account again. Today, I bid farewell to you. The snow leopard will always be in the mountains of Litang and will never come out. As some book friends wish, forever. Shut up. Ouch. This chapter is the second reprint after being reported. End of chapter.